Chapter 1981. How could a tiny pearl dare to compete with the sun and moon? The man looked at Yun Luofeng with disdain as his lips curled into a sarcastic smile. How could a mere divine realm expert defeat him? Although this girl's innate talent was very strong, to a sun and moon like him, it was impossible for a tiny pearl to compete with him. Whoosh! Yun Luofeng raised her hand, and a swordlight flew toward the man's head. The man dodged to the side as the disdain on his face deepened, and his eyes were filled with disdain. A divine realm expert is only a divine realm expert. How could he defeat me? After saying that, the man had already made his move. He was very fast like a gust of wind, and appeared in front of Yun Luofeng in the blink of an eye. His palm was wrapped in a layer of power as it struck toward Yun Luofeng with a loud bang. Bang! Yun Luofeng did not dodge at the crucial moment, but met the man's attack head-on. Bai Ling's heart skipped a beat, and she was so nervous that she could not breathe. She clenched her fists tightly as her body trembled. At the same time, the disdain in the man's eyes deepened. If Yun Luofeng had dodged, she might not have been defeated so quickly. However, this woman overestimated her strength and wanted to fight him head-on. How could a divine realm expert's strength compare to an ultimate god's? However, the man's smile soon froze. With a loud bang, a powerful force spread out from the two of them, flattening the entire mountainous region. It was as if it had been struck by lightning, and the entire ground had sunk in. Yun Luofeng shook her numb arm as she felt a fishy taste in her throat. She almost spat out a mouthful of blood but managed to suppress it. There was indeed a huge gap between ultimate gods. This man was different from Lang Xingyue, whom she had met earlier. Perhaps even 10 Lang Sinews would not be a match for this man at this moment. The shock in the man's eyes was undisguised. In his imagination, that woman's arm would have been broken even if she did not die from the blow. He had used almost all of his strength. However, she was now standing in front of him unscathed. Could it be because of the dragon scale armor? The man gently narrowed his eyes and finally realized that something was amiss. Perhaps the dragon scale armor had neutralized most of his power, allowing this woman to remain unscathed. Little girl, looks like I've underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have such a treasure on you. In other words, the reason Lin Yun was able to block his attack wasn't because he was strong, but because of the dragon scale armor. Since that's the case, I can only end this quickly. All of you, go and cripple this girl for me. The man snorted. This woman was still useful to him, so he naturally couldn't kill her. Bai Ling had already come back to her senses. Looking at the man's shameless face, she smiled coldly. What? Is it not enough for you to bully the young? Now you want to bully the young with numbers? Is this how Master taught you to bully the weak? The man sneered. So, what if I'm bullying you with numbers? Who asked the Freedom Alliance to have so many people? Bai Ling, if you listen to me, I'll let her go. This time, before Bai Ling could speak, Yun Luofeng's evil voice rang out again. I'm indeed no match for you in terms of numbers, but one of my people can fight against 10 of you. Yun Luofeng glanced at the man and said faintly, Ji Jiutian, how long are you going to watch the show? Chapter 1982. Just as Yun Luofeng finished speaking, an arrogant laugh pierced the sky and caused the entire void to tremble. Little Feng, I didn't expect you to discover me even though I hid so well. In the sky, a streak of bright red gradually appeared. The man was like a devastatingly beautiful evildoer, but as a man, he was so beautiful that even women would feel ashamed of themselves. His red clothes accentuated his peerless elegance. His chest was half open, and his snow-white skin was captivating. His lips curled into an arrogant smile, and his almond-shaped eyes looked down at the people opposite Yun Luofeng. Since you're here, why didn't you come out just now? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly, and an evil glint flashed across his eyes. She came to the wind cloud continent to find Ji Jiutian, but this man was still hiding from her? Didn't this guy say he wanted to fight you one-on-one? Ji Jiutian pointed at the man opposite him with his chin. I just wanted to observe his abilities. Moreover, I don't think he can defeat you. But his lips curled up slightly. I didn't expect him to be so shameless. Since he can't defeat you, he decided to bully you with numbers. But just as I wanted to help you, you discovered me. Yun Luofeng glanced at Ji Jiutian. How many can you fight? I'll leave this man to you. I can help you deal with the others. All right, you and Little Tiger handle these people. I'll deal with this man from the Freedom Alliance myself. Yun Luofeng's expression became serious again, and his voice was filled with evil. Little Tiger howled and stared at the Freedom Alliance members like a tiger watching its prey. Bai Ling did not know if it was an illusion, but she felt that this evildoer in red was looking at her daughter differently. However, it was normal for her daughter to be admired by men since she was so outstanding. Bai Ling's expression was filled with pride. This was her daughter, and also the pride of her life. You want to deal with so many people with just the two of you? The man narrowed his eyes slightly, and a look of disdain flashed across his eyes. I'm afraid that's too whimsical. He would teach them how to be human and let them understand that they should never boast. Otherwise, they would be slapping themselves in the face. Yun Luofeng looked at the man calmly. Yun Xiao must have already sensed the commotion caused by his battle with this man. Right now, he must be rushing over. She had to stall for time before he arrived. Ji Jiutian stood in front of Yun Luofeng. At the same time, the group of ultimate gods behind the man made their move. The blood-colored striped tiger roared and rushed toward one of the ultimate gods. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at that ultimate god. However, that ultimate god dodged the tiger's attack by turning his body sideways. Little Tiger was not discouraged and charged at the ultimate god again. Yun Luofeng released Yun Yi. Although Yun Yi was only a heavenly god, he could still handle a few attacks from an ultimate god with his strength. As for the other spirit beasts, there was still a gap in strength. In order to avoid unnecessary casualties, Yun Luofeng did not let them fight. Feng, be careful. Seeing that the man had taken the initiative to attack, Bai Ling's heart tensed up once again as she hurriedly called out. Yun Luofeng glanced at the man in front of him. The dragon scale armor on his body shone brilliantly, and he once again met the man's attack. Chapter 1983. The man's lips curled into a cold smile. He suddenly exerted force in his palm and struck the dragon scale armor on Yun Luofeng's body. His aura surged forth like a swarm of bees, and every move was aimed at the vital points. In the beginning, he had thought that Yun Luofeng was Bai Ling's substitute. However, he had never expected that this woman was actually Bai Ling's daughter. Since that was the case, he would make Bai Ling suffer. This was the price Bai Ling had to pay for not accepting him. But, seeing that Yun Luofeng had dodged his attacks time and time again, the man's expression was somewhat gloomy. A layer of frost appeared between his brows. Bai Ling's daughter was actually so powerful. Fortunately, he discovered it early. Otherwise, if she were to continue to grow, his Freedom Alliance would definitely be destroyed in her hands. The most important thing now was to kill her before she fully matured. Thinking of this, the man's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His attacks on Yun Luofeng became faster and more ferocious, like a torrential downpour. Yun Luofeng hid his emotions with a calm expression. There was a time limit to the dragon scale armor. She had summoned it once before, and even though she could summon it twice within a short period of time, because she had broken through to the heavenly god stage, once the dragon scale armor disappeared, she would be in a passive situation. At that time, she would not be able to resist this man. Just as Yun Luofeng was muttering to herself, the man once again appeared in front of her. A sharp blade appeared in his hand, and he swung it at Yun Luofeng's head. Yun Luofeng tilted his head. The sharp blade passed through his hair, and a strand of hair was cut off, gradually falling from the sky. Little girl, even though you're beautiful, you're still too young. You don't have the same taste as your mother. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind taking both of you, haha. The man burst into laughter. His arrogant voice echoed throughout the void. Then I'm afraid you won't be alive to enjoy it. Yun Luofeng looked at the man coldly and said in a domineering tone. Tisk, as far as I know, your dragon scale armor seems to have a time limit. When the time comes, I'm afraid you'll become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered.
Really?
Yun Luofeng's lips curled up slightly. Her dragon-scale battle armor indeed had a time limit, but Yun Xiao would be rushing over soon. She just had to hold on until Yun Xiao arrived. Stop. Seeing that the man was about to strike again, Bai Ling finally could not hold it in any longer and shouted angrily, "Olay, the person you've been looking for has always been me. It has nothing to do with my daughter. If you dare to touch a single hair on her, even if I have to break my bones, I will make you lose an arm or a leg." After all, as Yun Luofeng's mother, how could Bai Ling not know that her daughter had always been putting up a strong front? If she didn't stand up for her daughter, how could she be a mother? The man whom Bai Ling addressed as Olay smiled and looked at Bai Ling condescendingly. "Bai Ling, have you finally decided to marry me? Anyway, you're not pure. I don't despise you, so you should be grateful." His face was full of arrogance. "Don't tell me I'm not as good as your adulterer?" Bai Ling sneered. "Even 10,000 of you can't compare to one of her. I'm not begging you, I'm warning you. You should believe in my strength. If I die a horrible death, you won't feel good either." Olay's face gradually turned gloomy, like a storm that made people filled with horror. Chapter 1984. This woman was really refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Did she really want to force him to attack her? "I've said that I can handle this." Yun Luofeng sighed helplessly as he looked at Bai Ling, who had stepped forward. "You're my daughter. I can't just leave you alone." Bai Ling turned to look at Olay with a cold expression on her beautiful face. "You've suffered too much over the years and suffered too many injuries. Now that we've finally reunited, how can I allow anyone to hurt you again?" Although Bai Ling did not know how Yun Luofeng had survived all those years, she must have suffered unimaginable pain for her to have such strength at such a young age. She felt a stabbing pain whenever she thought of what her daughter had gone through all those years. Howl. Little Tiger Lord let out a heroic roar in response to Bai Ling and swung his claws at an ultimate god in front of him. Ji Jiutian turned to look at Yun Luofeng with an evil smile on his enchanting face. He quickly turned back and continued to deal with the enemies in front of him. "Humph." Olay snorted. "Yun Yueqing, you forced me to do this. Don't blame me for not considering our past friendship." As soon as the words left his mouth, a massive amount of power gathered in Olay's palm. Heaven and earth seemed to change color. Boundless power, like a sharp sword, arrived in front of Yun Luofeng in the blink of an eye. This time, he didn't plan on hiding his strength. Instead, he unleashed all of his power through this attack. "Feng, be careful." Bai Ling turned pale with fright. Her body flashed and appeared in front of Yun Luofeng, wanting to block this attack for her. However, Yun Luofeng suddenly used his hand to push Bai Ling's body away. Bai Ling turned around in shock and forgot that unforgettable scene for the rest of her life. The unparalleled force swallowed Yun Luofeng as the sky was filled with dark clouds. It was so gloomy that it made one's heart feel depressed. The woman's clothes were whiter than snow as she stood in the void. Her snow-white dress was spotless and extremely beautiful. Ouyang was stunned. His full-force attack had no effect on that woman? No, seeing Yun Luofeng's current situation, Ouyang's eyes narrowed. "Looks like your dragon-scale armor is indeed a good item. Unfortunately, no matter how strong it is, it can't withstand such a strong force. Hence, under my attack, your dragon-scale armor can't withstand it." Indeed, Yun Luofeng used his dragon-scale armor to block this attack. Unfortunately, the dragon-scale armor couldn't withstand this kind of power and dissipated before its duration was up. But, feeling the approaching aura, Yun Luofeng's lips curled up into a smile. His black eyes remained as calm as water, without any ripples. Feng. At that moment, Bai Ling's heart almost stopped beating. She quickly walked in front of Yun Luofeng and hurriedly hugged her. Yun Luofeng could even feel Witty's trembling body. "You're fine, that's great. You're fine." She did not dare to imagine how much damage Yun Luofeng would have suffered if he did not have the protection of the dragon-scale armor. She couldn't imagine how she would live her life after losing the daughter she had finally reunited with. Fortunately, she was safe and sound. Bai Ling's voice trembled slightly. Two clear streams of tears flowed from her eyes, and her eyes were filled with the joy of regaining what she had lost. Chapter 1985. Olay stared at Bai Ling, who was hugging Yun Luofeng tightly, and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. She's just a bastard child. Is she worth treasuring like this? Bai Ling clenched her fists as anger surged in her chest. She turned around and looked at Olay coldly. She's my legitimate daughter. I'm also the official wife of the Yun family. What do you mean by a bastard child? My good junior sister, don't forget that master is already dead. I'm your senior brother. I didn't agree to you marrying that man, so this girl is just a bastard child. Bai Ling smiled, and it was a mocking smile. I've only been apprenticed to master for less than 10 years. I've been married to Brother Yang for almost 30 years. Do you think you have the right to decide my marriage? If not for the events of the past few years, Bai Ling would have always treated this senior brother as family. However, at that time, Master was still alive. Both her senior brother and senior sister had treated her extremely well. However, once Master died, these people's wild ambitions were revealed. Furthermore, she did not even know that Olay was such a shameless villain. Yun Luofeng did not stop the two of them. To her, it was better for Olay to buy time so that she would not have to think of other ways to delay things. Yun Yueqing, I'm your senior brother. You must listen to me. Olay was furious. He raised his hand and tried to grab Bai Ling's arm. This bastard child will either serve me like you or die. Your choice. Before Olay's hand could touch Bai Ling, she flung it away in disgust. Her eyes were filled with undisguised disgust. Get lost. Don't touch me with your disgusting, dirty hands. Furthermore, my daughter will not die, nor will she serve you. Olay was completely enraged. Of course, he could not kill Bai Ling. He could only look at Yun Luofeng again. You no longer have the protection of the dragon scale armor. Let's see how you fight me this time. Go to hell. As soon as he finished speaking, Olay charged towards Yun Luofeng at lightning speed. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his lips curled into a cold smile. Yun Luofeng looked at the incoming attack, and her expression gradually turned serious. This time, she didn't dare to be careless and meet her opponent head-on. She dodged to the side, clearly dodging the attack. But very quickly, Olay's sharp sword was right in front of her eyes. The close distance made it impossible for her to dodge. Bai Ling's heart stopped beating again. She charged at Yun Luofeng like a madman. Unfortunately, she was a little far away and couldn't reach Olay, who was right in front of her. By the time she reached Yun Luofeng's side, it was already too late. At this moment, in the air, a cold aura, like a rope, strangled his neck, causing him to stop breathing. When he came back to his senses, he discovered that a man in black robes had landed in front of him, shielding Yun Luofeng in his arms. The man's expression was cold, and he raised his hand to create a murderous aura. That aura forced Olay to take a few steps back, and his expression finally turned serious. Who are you? Yun Xiao curled his lips, and his expression was cold. You're delusional enough to touch my woman, yet you're asking me who I am? Bai Ling was still wondering who this man who had descended from the sky was when she suddenly heard his words. It was as if she had been struck by lightning, and she was dumbfounded on the spot. His woman? Could it be that Feng already had a husband? Bai Ling's expression was a little gloomy. How much had she missed out on all these years? Olay's expression changed. He could feel the powerful aura from this man's body, and his mood instantly became much more serious. Chapter 1986. Kid, are you sure you want to be a busybody? There are so many women in this world. Don't throw your life away for a woman. Olay was unwilling to lose his momentum. Until now, he did not forget to warn Yun Xiao. As long as that man knew what was good for him, he would not be an enemy of the Freedom Alliance. Unfortunately, Yun Xiao had always been unwilling to say a word. He believed that it was better to fight than to talk. Therefore, Olay did not get a reply from him. Instead, that eagle-like figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Olay's expression changed slightly as he faced the opponent's attack. In an instant, A numb feeling spread from his arm to his whole body, causing him to take a few steps back. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, Ji Jiutian had killed all the ultimate gods in front of him. He slowly walked toward Yun Xiao and slightly raised his chin. "Do you need my help?" Yun Xiao's voice was as cold as ever. "No." Ji Jiutian smiled enchantingly as he descended from the void and stood in front of Yun Luofeng. With Yun Zhao's strength, Olay was no match for him. Soon, Yun Zhao's actions proved Ji Jiutian's words. Olay had almost exhausted his strength when he fought with Yun Luofeng previously. He was completely powerless at that moment. Of course, even if he had not fought with Yun Luofeng, he would not be a match for Yun Xiao at this time. No one noticed that there was a slender figure hidden behind an ancient tree not far away. Mo Qianqing's eyes were glued to Yun Luofeng. When he saw the deep love in the woman's eyes, his heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. The pain was unbearable. "Zhu Qian, you didn't love me in your past life. Are you still looking down on me in this life?" He looked down to hide the pain in his eyes. "I wanted to kill that man, but unfortunately, I can't kill him with my current strength. More importantly, I don't want you to hate me. I don't want you to hate me. That's all. I've made all the mistakes in the world and incurred your hatred. But now, what I'm most afraid of is seeing your eyes filled with hatred if this man is really your choice. Should I back out?" For a moment, Mo Qianqing didn't know what kind of decision he should make. He was at a loss and helpless. In the end, after looking at Yun Luofeng, he turned and left. As long as he knew that she was safe, that was enough. Mo Qianqing bit his pink lips tightly. His handsome face was very pale, and his eyes were filled with tears of reluctance. But in the end, he understood that no matter what he did, he could not dispel the hatred in her heart. She hated him. It could be seen from the time he wanted to kill Yun Xiao. Otherwise, she would not have left so many people by her side. She was only unwilling to leave him behind. "Zhu Qian, if there's a next life, I hope I won't know you again." For him, he had waited for so many years, waiting until his heart was tired. Perhaps it was time for him to give up. In the sky, Olay was gradually losing his stamina, and it was very difficult for him to deal with the attacks. Just as he could no longer hold on, Yun Xiao kicked him down from the sky, and he landed in front of Bai Ling with a bang. He smashed a deep pit into the ground. Yun Xiao walked in front of Yun Luofeng, his pitch-black eyes filled with warmth. "Feng, I've come late." Chapter 1987. "You're not late. You're just in time." Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and smiled faintly. Then, he pulled Yun Xiao towards Bai Ling. "Mother, this is Yun Xiao. He has always been by my side for the past 10 years. He is also the lover that I can give my life to." Yun Xiao was stunned. He quickly regained his cool expression and nodded. "Mother." Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Bai Ling sized up Yun Xiao. Just like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law, the more she looked at him, the more she liked him. However, Bai Ling suddenly heard how Yun Xiao had addressed her and was instantly stunned. "You're married?" Yun Luofeng rubbed his nose. "Not too long ago, we just got married." At this moment, Bai Ling felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She wanted to cry, but had no tears. She had originally wanted to attend her daughter's wedding ceremony in the future. She never expected her daughter to tell her that they were already married. As a mother, the most tragic thing was not being able to see her daughter get married. "Mother, how do we deal with this fellow?" Yun Luofeng raised his brows and turned his gaze towards the man who was unable to climb out of the deep pit. Bai Ling frowned and muttered, "Kill him." If Olay had only been rude to her, it would have been fine. She could not tolerate him wanting to hurt her precious daughter. "Yun Xiao, go and kill him. I don't want to dirty my hands." Yun Luofeng yawned lazily. His expression was somewhat lazy. Things had come to an end here. "All right." Yun Xiao spoke concisely and slowly walked towards Olay. In the deep pit, Olay looked at the cold face approaching him, and panic appeared on his face. "No, I don't want to die. Please let me go, I beg you." "Ah!" Suddenly, Yun Zhao's hand waved. Streaks of swift and fierce sword beams rushed down, chopping onto her body. In just a moment, not a single part of Olay's skin was left intact. His eyes were wide open as if he had died, with a remaining grievance. Bai Ling looked at Olay, who had been buried in a pool of blood, and felt a little sad. This man had died just like that. His death was extremely tragic. However, Bai Ling did not feel any sympathy. Olay had brought this upon himself. Who could he blame? Master. Little Tiger's ears suddenly twitched and he said, "The spiritual beasts in Nemesis Forest just sent a message saying that the woman called Lang Xinhua has run away." Yun Xiao had only killed the Freedom Alliance's ultimate gods and was about to finish off Lang Xinhua when he heard a commotion coming from the depths of Nemesis Forest. He was worried about Yun Luofeng's safety and couldn't care less about Lang Xinhua. Who would have thought that this woman actually had the ability to escape? It doesn't matter. Bai Ling's tightly furrowed brows relaxed. She has nowhere else to go except the Freedom Alliance. I'll pay a visit to the Freedom Alliance myself sooner or later. After speaking, Bai Ling looked at Little Tiger. Also, your master is Feng. From now on, she will be your only master.
Awa.
The baby tiger responded obediently and laid down on the ground. Yun Xiao, let's gather with the others first. After Yun Luofeng had spoken, he walked to Bai Ling's side and held her arm. Mother, come with me during this period of time. I still need to continue curing you of the poison. Bai Ling was stunned. You mean, this poison of mine can be cured? Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Compared to my strength, I'm more proud of my medical skills. Therefore, I have 100% confidence in curing your poison. It's just that the steps are a little more troublesome. Chapter 1988. Bai Ling felt a little dizzy. She remembered that when she had just left, her daughter did not know anything. How is it that in just 20 years, she had become so powerful and had such extraordinary medical skills? What had she gone through in the past 20 years? Bai Ling's heart throbbed in pain once again. She decided that she would use the rest of her life to make it up to her. Not too far away, Chi Su raised his head in anticipation. After a long while, he finally saw Bai Ling, who had followed Yun Luofeng over. In that instant, hot tears welled up in his eyes. Master. It had been more than 3 years. Who knew how he had spent the past 3 years? In this world, no one had treated him better than his master. His master was also a family member that he did not want to lose in this lifetime. Su Ber. Bai Ling saw Chi Su at first glance, and a gentle smile appeared on her face. She held Yun Luofeng's hand and slowly walked towards Chi Su. Feng has already told me everything that has happened in the past 3 years on the way here. It's really been hard on you and Xiaoling. I never thought that the Qi family would be such ingrates. They had used the world that she had conquered to abuse her disciple. And they had even sold Xiaoling? Bai Ling had never expected that such a person would exist in this world. Master. Chi Su knelt down in front of Bai Ling and sobbed uncontrollably. Your disciple has been unfilial. I have caused Master to suffer in Nemesis Forest all these years. If he had enough power to protect his family, Master would not have taken such a risk. Bai Ling knew that Qi Ling was taking all the blame for his disappearance for the past 3 years. She quickly raised her hand and helped him up. She said gently, Suer, this is not your fault. Master had been framed and had no choice but to hide in this place. Chi Su did not speak. He secretly made up his mind that he would not let his master suffer any more harm in the future. Mu Xuexin looked at Yun Luofeng and Bai Ling's figures as they walked out at the same time. Her eyes were a little dazed as she realized that the two women looked like a pair of mother and daughter when they stood together. She was curious. Aunt Yun, you and Miss Yun are. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Bai Ling held Yun Luofeng's hand, her face filled with pride. This is my daughter, Yun Luofeng. My real name is not Yun Yueqing. It's Bai Ling. Yun is my husband's surname. That's why I can't forget it even after so many years. Furthermore, I named little Ling because that's the only word I remember. Mu Xuexin widened her mouth in shock and hastily covered her mouth with her hands. No wonder she felt so close to Yun Luofeng. It was because she was Aunt Yun's daughter. Among the people present, the Purple Moon Kingdom's people were all dead, and the Golden Sun Kingdom's people also suffered a casualty. Only Cheng-Li and his men were still alive. As for Qi Yu from the kingdom of Tianqi, he had never appeared from the beginning to the end. It was unknown where he had gone, of course. Cheng-Li was no longer as arrogant as before. He was so frightened that he didn't dare to say a word and kept his head bowed. Yun Luofeng ignored him and walked over to Qiao Zixuan's corpse. He took the jade seal from the corpse's chest and put it away without hesitation. "Do you have any objections if I take this jade seal?" She raised her brows at Cheng-Li and asked blandly. Cheng-Li was so scared that his heart almost stopped beating. "No problem." What a joke. This woman did not even care about the supreme divinities. Would he dare to have an opinion? Wasn't this courting death? Chapter 1989. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Just at this moment, a rustling sound came from the side. When everyone turned their heads to look, they saw Qi Yu leading a few people over. Only a few of the soldiers he had brought with him were left. The rest had died in Nemesis Forest. Qi Yu clearly did not expect to meet Qi Ling and the others. When he saw the corpses all over the ground, he was startled. What exactly happened here? However, Qi Yu quickly recovered his wits. A pair of disdainful eyes swept over Qi Ling. "Second brother, I see that you have not gained anything yet, right? Do you need me to help you?" "Haha, I just got a jade seal not long ago. As long as I get another one, first place will definitely belong to me." He raised his chin and said arrogantly, "As for you, if you were not with the Golden Sun Nation's people, these outsiders would have taken your life." Qi Yu did not recognize the experts of the Freedom Alliance. He had not even seen Wu Zun of the Golden Sun Nation before. Therefore, he was certain that these people had accidentally intruded into Nemesis Forest and caused conflict with the four countries. It was Cheng-Li who had led the Jinyang country's people to kill these outsiders, and Qi Ling was merely hiding behind the Jinyang country's back. Cheng-Li looked at Qi Yu with a strange gaze, as though he was looking at a fool. Qi Yu did not notice the other party's strange expression. A cold smile hung on his lips as he looked down at Qi Ling. "You want to find the other jade seal?" After a long time, Qi Ling finally spoke. His voice was very cold, bone-chilling. Qi Yu laughed mockingly. "Second brother, if you want to fight with me, you will definitely not win." In other words, the champion of this four-nation youth competition would definitely be him. "I'm sorry, but I wanted to tell you that you don't have to look for the other jade seal. Aside from the one you found, the other jade seals have already been obtained by Miss Yun." Before the smile on the corner of Qi Yu's mouth could disappear, Qi Ling's cold voice suddenly fell into his ears and exploded in his mind, causing an obvious astonishment to appear on his face. "Are you joking? I've only found one, and you guys can get 3? Qi Yu clearly did not believe Qi Ling's words. He thought that Qi Ling was trying to deceive him. Qi Yu was even more certain that Qi Ling was lying to him. He coldly laughed. "I know. You want to deceive me. You want me to think that the Imperial Jade Seal is in your hands, so I give up. Qi Ling, do you think I'm a stupid pig? How could I fall for your trick?" After saying this, he deliberately looked at Yun Luofeng. However, Yun Luofeng crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned lazily against Yun Zhao's chest. His eyes were full of smiles, and he had absolutely no intention of interfering in this matter. Qi Yu's eyes narrowed when he saw Yun Zhao. He remembered that the man known as the Ghost Emperor had killed Princess Qiao Yefeng of the Purple Moon Kingdom on the spot, and his aura was not weak when facing the cultivators of the Golden Sun Kingdom. But he wasn't from the Four Nations, so why would he appear in this place? The funny thing was that his gaze was initially on those corpses, and he didn't notice Yun Zhao's existence. What he said is true. Cheng-Li's gaze revealed a complicated expression. They have already obtained the other 3 jade seals. If the person who said this was from the Drifting Wind Nation, perhaps Qi Yu would not have appeared. Chapter 1990. But now, the person who told him all this was Prince Cheng-Li of Jinyang Country. Qi Yu's heart was violently shaken, and he could not help but take 2 steps back. He gently narrowed his eyes and stared at Qi Ling with murderous intent. This idiot actually managed to get his hands on 3 jade seals? No, absolutely not. This world belonged to him, and he could not hand it over to anyone else. Prince Chengli, do you want to see Qi Ling unify the 4 kingdoms? Qi's eyes flashed, and he said darkly, I think that compared to Qi Ling, your Jin Sun country is more qualified. Even though Qi Ling has the help of Drifting Wind country, but if we work together, we still have a chance of winning.
Qi was gambling.
He was betting that Yun Shao would not meddle in other people's business out of fear of the 2 countries. After all, no matter how strong that man was, he was probably only an ultimate god. However, the ultimate gods from both countries were enough to crush him. But Qi seemed to have forgotten that if Yun Shao dared to kill someone in front of the emperor of Jinyang country, what else would he not dare to do? This time, without waiting for Qi Ling and the others to speak, Chengli rushed forward and slapped Qi's face. He then angrily raised his leg and fiercely glared at Qi's chest. Idiot, you're courting death. Don't drag this prince down with you. Cheng shuddered from head to toe. Did he have the guts to join forces with him to deal with Qi Ling and the others? How many ultimate gods from the Freedom Alliance had died here? How many people in the Jinyang kingdom could they kill? Qi clutched his chest as he stood up and roared angrily. Chengli, what are you doing? You want to unify the 4 countries, and I intend to help you, yet you still attack me? It's like a dog biting Lu Dongbin, who doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. I'm beating up trash like you. Chengli raised his leg again and sent Qi flying. The group of people behind Qi you wanted to attack, but they were knocked down by the soldiers of Jinyang country. At this moment, Chengli didn't care that the other party was a prince of another country. He directly ran in front of the other party and fiercely stomped on him. Trash, if you want to die, go find a place where no one is around. Why did you frame me? What do you mean I want to unify the 4 countries? Bullshit. I've never thought of it that way. What a joke. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't dare to say it. Furthermore, after witnessing the strength of Yun Luofeng and Yun Shao, he had truly given up on such thoughts. This continent had always been like this, where the strong were revered. The other party's strength was too terrifying, so terrifying that he could not resist it. That was why Chengli was so furious when he heard Qi's words. Qi had long been beaten into a daze. He clearly did not know what had happened, and he was in so much pain that he could not even speak. I have no enmity with you, yet you want to harm me. If I don't beat you to death today, I'll change my surname to yours. In front of Yun Luofeng and Yun Shao, he had declared that he wanted to unify the 4 nations and even wanted them to join forces to deal with these people. How is this any different from deliberately framing him? Qi shuddered at the thought of this. Of course, this trembling was not from anger, but from fear in his heart. He was afraid that Yun Luofeng would believe the words of this trash. Your Highness, if you continue to beat him, he'll probably be beaten to death. When the person behind Chengli saw Qi gasping for air instead of inhaling, he kindly reminded him. Qi was after all a prince of Tianqi country. No matter what, he could not beat him to death. Sure enough, Chengli retracted his leg and glared at Qi fiercely. The next time you harm me, it won't be as simple as a beating. Chapter 1991. At this moment, Qiyu's head was in a daze. He didn't understand why he framed Chengli Miss Yun. Chengli quickly walked in front of Yun Luofeng and bowed like a dog. What did I do just now? Yun Luofeng smiled lightly. He's not wrong. In the beginning, didn't you want to join forces with the prince of the Purple Moon Kingdom to deal with us? Cold sweat appeared on Chengli's forehead. He raised his hand to wipe it, but the more he wiped, the more his face became pale. He laughed twice. At that time, I was just listening to the Purple Moon Kingdom's bewitchment. I asked Miss Yun to forgive me and let me go. Yun Luofeng raised her eyes and glanced at him. Remember, the commander of the 4 countries is not me, it's Qi Ling. If you have any problems, just look for him. As for why she didn't let Qi Su be the commander of the 4 countries, it's because Qi Su still needs to help her run the Elixir Hall. He doesn't have that much energy to manage the 4 countries.
Yes.
Chengli smiled flatteringly, but in his heart, he didn't agree. Even if Miss Yun claims that the commander of the 4 countries is Qiling, anyone can see that Qiling has become her subordinate, so in the end, the person behind the scenes who controls the 4 countries is still him. That's right. Chengli seemed to remember something, and said, Our Jinyang Kingdom's princess was summoned back, but when Wuzun talked about Jinyang, I felt that his tone was different from usual. I suspect that something happened to Jinyang. Yun Luofeng's cold and beautiful face appeared in her mind. After a moment of silence, she said, Yun Xiao, let's go back to Wind Cloud City immediately. In any case, before Princess Jinyang left, she reminded her that this trip to Sky Law is not simple and asked her to pay attention to safety. Just based on this advice, she would also help her at the crucial moment. Okay. Yun Xiao raised her hand and held Yun Luofeng's waist, slowly rising into the void. In a few steps, they have already traveled 100 meters. Master. Chisu looked at Bai Ling and asked, Princess Jinyang once reminded us to pay attention to safety. If she is really in danger, we should help. Then let's go together. Bai Ling did not hesitate. Since the other party had helped her daughter and disciple, she had to help her when necessary. For a moment, no one bothered with Chiyu, who was lying on the ground, as they all headed towards Wind Cloud City. Within Wind Cloud City, Princess Jinyang quickly walked into the luxurious mansion and saw Cheng Feiyang frowning and deep in thought. Imperial Father, why did you summon me back so urgently? Cheng Feiyang stared at Princess Jinyang's face as a look of struggle flashed across his eyes. In the end, he sighed helplessly. Jinyang, I accidentally received news that the Freedom Alliance has also gone to Nemesis Forest to kill the geniuses from the 4 nations. Hearing this, Princess Jinyang's expression suddenly changed. Imperial Father, why didn't you say so earlier? This time, the geniuses are the princes and princesses of the 4 nations. If they die, it will be a great loss to the 4 nations. If you had told them, they might have been able to escape this calamity. Jinyang, even if the 4 nations are united, they may not be able to go against the current Freedom Alliance. Imperial Father just doesn't want the Jinyang nation to be destroyed. Cheng Feiyang's face was filled with helplessness. If I had known that this would happen, I would not have chosen Nemesis Forest as the competition ground. Chapter 1992. Her words made it seem as if he did not know from the beginning. Unfortunately, Princess Jinyang believed her words. Even if she could not bear it, how could she blame her imperial father? She was worried about the entire Jinyang country. However, when she thought of Yun Luofeng in Nemesis Forest, she sighed softly in her heart. She hoped that Yun Luofeng would listen to her warning and safely escape from this calamity. Actually, Cheng Feiyang continued under Princess Jinyang's helpless expression. I asked you to come back because of another matter. What is it? Jinyang raised her head and looked at Cheng Feiyang. When she saw Cheng Feiyang's hesitant expression, she gradually felt uneasy. Your imperial mother. Cheng Feiyang's eyes were filled with grief. She was captured by the Freedom Alliance. With a loud bang, Princess Jinyang's heart pounded violently. Her breathing became uncontrollable and her tightly clenched fists trembled slightly. What did you say? Mother has been captured. Why would the Freedom Alliance want to capture Mother? The leader of the Freedom Alliance has taken a fancy to you and wants you to be his woman. That's why he captured your imperial mother. Cheng Feiyang's voice trembled as he spoke. Jinyang, imperial father has no other choice. You are the only one who can save your imperial mother. The Empress was actually already dead. However, this was the only way to make her obediently go to the Freedom Alliance. Princess Jinyang closed her eyes and clenched her fists tightly. What had she worked so hard for? It was so that one day she would not need to become a tool for a political marriage. Instead, she could find someone to live with. Even if she had to work at sunrise and rest at sunset, she would be satisfied. However, in the end, even though she had become an imperial princess, she still could not change her fate. Imperial father, you agreed? Jinyang opened her eyes and asked. Cheng Feiyang avoided her gaze. In order to save your imperial mother's life, I had no choice but to agree. I understand. Princess Jin Yang raised her cold face. I will marry him. As long as her imperial mother could live, she was willing to become a man's plaything. Jin Yang. Cheng Feiyang called out to her, his voice full of heartache. No matter what, this girl was the daughter that he had doted on for more than 20 years. How could he really bear to let her suffer? But he had no other choice, right? He couldn't afford to provoke the Freedom Alliance. I am tired. I want to rest. Princess Jin Yang did not look at Cheng Feiyang again. She calmly turned around and walked out the door. But the moment she turned around, she couldn't help but tear up. In this life, what she wanted was very simple. It was enough for him to have a lover who understood him. However, as a princess of the royal family, this request became very difficult. Princess Jin Yang walked to her room in the relay station. She had just stepped in and closed the door. The moment she turned around, a figure suddenly appeared behind her. She was startled. Just as she was about to cry out in alarm, she saw the person in front of her kneel down in front of her. Princess, you must avenge the Empress. Xiao Ju, why are you in my room? Jin Yang frowned and asked. Also, what do you mean by asking me to avenge my imperial mother? Your Highness, these past few days, this servant has been wanting to go out and find you. Unfortunately, the people at the city gates refused to let the servant out. His Majesty seemed to have sensed something and wanted to lock this servant up. This servant wanted to find a secret room in your room, so I secretly hid here. Chapter 1993. The palace maid's face was covered in tears, and her expression was filled with grief. What do you mean? Why did Imperial Father lock you up? Jin Yang was confused and did not understand what she meant. Your Highness, Her Highness the Empress is dead.
Boom.
The palace maid's words were like a bolt from the blue. Jin Yang's body trembled a few times. She supported herself against the wall and barely supported herself. What nonsense are you talking about? Imperial Mother was captured by the Freedom Alliance. Why do you say she's dead? That's impossible. Imperial Mother can't be dead, and Imperial Father can't lie to me. Princess, this servant saw it with my own eyes. His Majesty and Wu Zuan planned to hand you over to the Freedom Alliance's Alliance Master. This matter was overheard by the Empress, so Wu Zuan killed the Empress. Moreover, he discussed with His Majesty that this matter should be concealed and purposely made you think that the Empress had been captured by the Freedom Alliance. The palace maid said all the words in one breath. Her voice trembled uncontrollably. Jin Yang leaned against the wall. Her face was covered in tears, and her lips were pale. Xiao Ju, tell me that you're lying to me. She said that she did not believe it, but in reality, she knew that Xiao Ju had no reason to lie to her. Did that mean that Imperial Father was lying to her? The more Cheng Feiyang thought about it, the more worried he felt about Jin Yang. He wanted to visit her and have a good talk with her. He had to consider the bigger picture. But he had just pushed the door open and walked in when he saw the palace maid who had disappeared for the past few days kneeling in front of Jin Yang. Jin Yang's face was covered in tears, and her eyes were filled with hatred. His heart thumped when he saw this. It seemed that his guess was right. This palace maid really knew everything. However, he never thought that she would be hiding in Jin Yang's room. No, he had ordered people to search all the rooms but hadn't found Xiao Ju. Where was she hiding? Imperial Father. Jin Yang turned her head and looked at Cheng Feiyang with sorrowful eyes. Why did you kill Imperial Mother?
Why?
Cheng Feiyang closed his eyes slightly. After a long while, he opened them again. I didn't kill your Imperial Mother. Does that mean that Empress Mother is really dead? Jin Yang's body staggered a few times, and she almost collapsed to the ground. Her face was filled with despair and hatred. I know it wasn't you, it was Wu Zuan. But why did you help Wu Zuan lie to me? Why didn't you tell me the truth?
Why?
Her voice was hysterical, and her eyes gradually became bloodshot. Her originally cold eyes were now filled with hatred and anger, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She did not believe that her imperial father, who was so warm to her imperial mother and loved her so dearly, would be an accomplice in the murder of his wife. Yes, he was an accomplice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped Wu Zun hide this matter. Jin Yong, I am the emperor. There are many things that I am helpless about. Cheng Feiyang's heart ached. But what could he do? For the sake of Jinyang country, he could only abandon his wife and daughter. Jinyang laughed miserably. What a good excuse. You're just looking for an excuse for your ambition. If you want to become the strongest in the 4 countries, I will work hard to cultivate and break through. If you want to unify the 4 countries, I will definitely be number 1 this time. But what about you? You killed my imperial mother and tricked me into marrying the leader of the Freedom Alliance. Chapter 1994. Jinyang couldn't believe that his father, who had always doted on and protected her, had done such a thing. However, no matter how much his father doted on his wife and daughter, he wouldn't hesitate to abandon his wife and daughter once there was a conflict between his status and that of his wife and daughter. Princess. The palace maid stood up from the ground and glared at Cheng Feiyang angrily. This servant and the Empress also heard that His Majesty and the Freedom Alliance have reached an agreement. They will lure the geniuses of the 4 nations to Nemesis Forest, and the Freedom Alliance will help His Majesty increase his strength. Wu Zun has also gone to Nemesis Forest to help the Freedom Alliance kill the geniuses of the 4 nations. Shut up. Cheng Feiyang flew into a rage when he heard this. He slapped the palace maid's chest, and the palace maid's body flew out instantly. She spat out a steady stream of blood. Xiao Ju. Jinyang quickly ran to the palace maid's side and helped her up.
How are you?
Princess, this servant's life was saved by the Empress, and you treated this servant very well. This servant should have followed the Empress after she died, but this servant was afraid that you would be deceived, so this servant stayed behind. The palace maid's voice was very weak. Now, this servant can go and serve the Empress again. Impudent. Cheng Feiyang shouted angrily. If it weren't for this lowly girl, Jinyang wouldn't have found out about this so quickly. At that time, he vented all his anger on the palace maid. You are a palace maid of the Jinyang country. How dare you disobey me? You deserve to die. The funny thing was that this palace maid didn't care about her life anymore. Why would she listen to Cheng Feiyang's threats? Jinyang sensed the palace maid's increasingly weak breathing. He gently placed her on the ground and glared at Cheng Feiyang with eyes full of hatred. So you were the one who lured the Freedom Alliance over. You killed so many geniuses of the 4 nations for your own selfish reasons? And even became the Freedom Alliance's lackey? Jinyang's chest heaved. Cheng Feiyang, I'm telling you, I will never marry the Freedom Alliance.
Dream on.
Jinyang was so angry that he called Cheng Feiyang by his name. The rage in his eyes intensified.
Bang.
At that moment, the room's door was slammed open. Cheng Feiyang frowned and turned his head to look. He saw a figure in ragged clothes quickly walking in. It was a beautiful woman. She looked like she had just experienced a great battle and was in an extremely sorry state. Miss Lang? Cheng Feiyang was stunned. This Lang Xinhua was the woman who had accompanied the Freedom Alliance's alliance master when he first came here. How did she end up in such a sorry state? Furthermore, why did he come to Wine Cloud City at this time? Lang Xinhua lightly frowned. I will take Princess Jinyang away. Did the guild master send you to pick up Jinyang? Cheng Feiyang's voice was clearly respectful. We've been waiting here for a long time. You can leave with Jinyang now. Lang Xinhua sneered, not answering Cheng Feiyang's question. If it weren't for the fact that Jinyang was still useful to her, she wouldn't have bothered to take him away. I won't go, Jinyang said coldly as he suppressed the surging killing intent in his heart. Without the Empress Mother as leverage, did he think they could oppress her? Jinyang, Imperial Father is begging you. Cheng Feiyang's face was full of pleading. All these years, Imperial Father has always doted on you like the apple of his eye. Could it be that you can bear to see Imperial Father being oppressed by the Freedom Alliance? Furthermore, don't tell me you don't know what it means to be a matchmaker? Chapter 1995. The order of her parents and the words of the matchmaker? Could it be that she could not escape her fate after all? Jin Yong felt very indignant. She clenched her fists and raised her stubborn little face. What if I don't agree? Jin Yong, Imperial Father has raised you up and given you more love than anyone else. Even if it's for the sake of Imperial Father's kindness in raising you, you should still leave with Miss Lang. Jin Yang's body trembled uncontrollably. Her heart was filled with despair and pain. She would rather be the daughter of an ordinary family than become a tool for a political marriage, I understand. After a long time, she loosened her tightly clenched fists. Her beautiful yet pale face was filled with coldness and arrogance. If you want me to marry the leader of the Freedom Alliance, then I'll marry him. It'll be my repayment for your kindness in raising me. From now on, our father-daughter relationship will be like this. She grabbed a strand of hair and raised the long sword in her hand to cut it. The strands of hair fluttered down, just like her resolute heart. Severing all ties. She said these 4 words resolutely and decisively, causing Chung Feiyong's heart to ache fiercely. He knew that with this decision, he had completely lost the daughter he was so proud of. Jin Yong, don't blame Father. Father had no other choice. No other choice? Jin Yong laughed coldly, her eyes filled with mockery. It's not that you had no other choice. It's just that your status is more important than mine and Mother's. Chung Feiyong did not retort. What Jin Yong said was the truth. When a person was in a high position, he would never be willing to fall from it. Otherwise, the feeling of loss would be unbearable. Also, Jin Yong paused. In the future, I will no longer be Princess Jin Yong, nor will I be the daughter of the Chung family. I will follow Mother's surname, Lian Yu. From now on, my name will be Lian Yuesheng. After saying this, Jin Yong flicked her sleeves and left. Her back view was very resolute, and her eyes were stern. Chung Feiyong's legs turned to jelly as he watched Jin Yong leave. He had lost too many family members this time, however, he had no other choice, right? Did he really have to become enemies with the Freedom Alliance? Who on this mainland could be a match for the Freedom Alliance? Outside Wind Cloud City, Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng didn't stop. Before the guards could react, they rushed in and headed straight for the relay station. At this moment, within the relay station, Chung Feiyong had already packed his luggage and left with the rest of the people. Yun Luofeng searched the entire relay station and only found the heavily injured and unconscious palace made Little Chrysanthemum. In order to find out what had happened in Wind Cloud City, she had fed the palace maids the elixir. The palace maid slowly woke up. Her mind was still in a daze when she heard Yun Luofeng's evil voice. Do you know where the Golden Sun Princess of the Jinyang Kingdom is? Princess? Little Chrysanthemum was taken aback, and anxiety appeared on her face. The princess has been taken away by the Freedom Alliance. Even though she had been injured by Chung Feiyong before this, she still saw a woman appear in a daze and take Princess Jin Yong away. His Majesty said that woman was from the Freedom Alliance, Yun Xiao. Jin Yong warned me. No matter what, I have to save her. Yun Luofeng raised his eyes slightly. Furthermore, the people of the Freedom Alliance hurt my mother. Chapter 1996. Yun Xiao hugged the woman in his arms tightly. No matter what you want to do, I will support your decision.
All right.
Then I'll send Qi Su and Qiling back to prepare. I want to wage war against the Freedom Alliance. Yun Luofeng's expression was cold, and his dark eyes were filled with murderous intent. There was indeed no need for the Freedom Alliance to exist anymore. Very soon, Qi Su, Bai Ling, and the others rushed over from Nemesis Forest. Prince Cheng Li of Golden Sun Country had long been heartbroken by his imperial father's actions. Naturally, he did not dare to return to Golden Sun Country at a time like this. Instead, he chose to stand behind Qiling. After Yun Luofeng had sent both parties back to make preparations, he asked for the exact location of the forbidden area that Qiling had mentioned and planned to head there with Yun Xiao. Bai Ling had long known about the dangers of the forbidden area, and her heart was filled with worry. Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng had not listened to her advice and insisted on heading there. She could only sigh helplessly. The forbidden area was actually behind the governor's palace. It was also because of this forbidden area that no one lived in the governor's palace. She had just entered the governor's palace when she felt a heavy and oppressive aura. This aura made it difficult for her to breathe. Fortunately, the divine grimoire space had helped her resolve this heavy aura in time. Yun Xiao stood behind Yun Luofeng without batting an eyelid. His expression had not changed at all. His features were handsome and cold, while his dark eyes were like a hawk's in the night, sharp and calm. Yun Xiao, this place is called the Forbidden Area because it's the core of the Fengyun continent. Besides, we only know the way to enter the Fengyun continent but not the way out. Perhaps we can discover something in this place. After saying this, Yun Luofeng walked into the city lord residence. In no time at all, he had arrived at a mountain range behind the governor's palace. Bolts of purple lightning had gathered in the sky above the mountain range. It was as if the moment anyone dared to step into the forbidden area, the lightning would immediately strike down and blast the intruder into pieces.
Yun-yi.
Yun Luofeng called out softly. In an instant, Yunyi's figure appeared in front of Yun Luofeng, and he immediately walked forward.
Boom.
As Yun-yi stepped forward, a bolt of lightning struck his head and landed fiercely on his body. The azure wings let out a comfortable sound and continued to move forward. Yun Luofeng looked at the heavenly lightning in the sky and narrowed his eyes. Looks like my guess was right. Every time a bolt of heavenly lightning falls from the sky, one bolt of heavenly lightning will disappear. The heavenly thunderbolts attacking the azure wings aren't that powerful yet. The longer it goes, the more powerful the heavenly thunderbolts will be. It was no wonder that they only discovered the existence of the heavenly thunder when they were halfway there. It wasn't that there was no heavenly thunder on the previous path, but because someone had been here before. The heavenly thunder had already fallen, so naturally, it wouldn't grow again. Because of this, Yun Luofeng came to the conclusion that the heavenly thunder was man-made. Someone purposely placed it there. That was why the number of heavenly thunders was limited. However, how powerful was the person who created the heavenly thunder? What was he protecting in this forbidden area? Every time the azure wings took a step, a bolt of lightning would fall, but the azure wings seemed to feel nothing and continued to carry him forward. Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao followed closely behind. Suddenly, Yunyi stopped. Just as Yun Luofeng was wondering what was going on, his body exploded with power. Chapter 1997. Ultimate God. Yun-yi had broken through to the ultimate God realm under the attack of the heavenly lightning. It was an unexpected surprise. Yun-yi did not stop after his breakthrough and continued walking forward. This time, he did not continue his breakthrough and was still in the ultimate God realm until he reached the end. However, Yun Luofeng believed that the heavenly lightning produced when he broke through to the ultimate God realm would definitely help Yunyi reach the divine emperor realm. After the heavenly lightning, what came into view was a paradise. Countless peach blossoms fell from the trees and dyed it into a beautiful painting. In the middle of the peach blossoms was a small wooden hut, which looked even more out of place. This is... Yun Luofeng was slightly startled after seeing the scene. So many heavenly lightning were protecting this small wooden hut? Let's go in and have a look, Yun Xiao said after a moment of silence. Yun Luofeng nodded, and the two of them walked into the wooden hut. The wooden hut was very ordinary, so ordinary that there was nothing special about it. There was a pen and paper on the wooden table, which had turned dark yellow. It had obviously been there for many years. Yun Luofeng picked up a book and flipped through it a few times. He suddenly realized that the book was about the origin of the entire world. The world did not just refer to the Fengyun continent and the 7 continents, but the entire world that included all the continents. However, Yun Luofeng casually browsed through it before putting it down and picked up another book. The book was a diary written by a person named Song Ji. She was just casually skimming through, but when she saw the next page, she was stunned. I spent my whole life researching medical skills. Later, I discovered a treasure book called the Divine Medical Codex. In this treasure book, there was a space. Unfortunately, this treasure book has two high requirements for the human body. Only a person with a spirit-empty body can carry this space. I observed the stars at night and found that the person with the spirit virtual body would not appear on this continent. Out of love for talent, I sent the divine grimoire of medicine to another space. That space seemed to be called Huaxia. Yun Luofeng's hand holding the diary trembled slightly. It turned out that it was not a coincidence that the space of the divine classic appeared in Huaxia. It was actually with Songji's help. It's a pity that even though this spirit virtual body has a strong talent, his love life is very tragic. Due to her constitution, she can only merge with a spiritual body. If she falls in love with another man, not only will her cultivation be destroyed, she will also not have a good ending. At this point, Yun Luofeng turned to look at Yun Xiao with a faint smile on his face. She was lucky to have met Yun Xiao. Otherwise, as Songji had said, she would not be able to combine with other men. Thinking of this, she retracted her gaze and continued reading. However, even if a spirit virtual body and a spirit physical body combine, it is impossible for them to get pregnant without certain factors. Yun Luofeng's hand, which was tightly holding the book, froze. She and Yun Xiao had known each other for more than 10 years, and they had also been together for several years, but they had never been able to conceive. She had also checked her and Yun Xiao's bodies and discovered that there were no problems. Since there were no problems, she would let nature take its course. Who would have thought that there was a reason for this? Fortunately, this old man cherishes geniuses, so I naturally couldn't bear to let such good genes go to waste. So, this old man used all the knowledge in his lifetime to invent a medicinal bed. As long as one fuses on this medicinal bed, it won't take long before one can become pregnant. Chapter 1998. Of course, this medicine bed alone isn't enough. I have also channeled all my power into the speed. As long as someone with spirit-empty body keeps the speed in their body, and at the same time combines with the spirit body, not only can they become stronger, but they can also get pregnant. What are you waiting for? Yun Luofeng gently narrowed her eyes. When she read Songji's last sentence, she felt as if he had known that she would appear. Sure enough, the last page of Songji's diary verified Yun Luofeng's guess. However, I've spent a lot of energy on this pearl, and I won't be able to live much longer. In order to prevent anyone from disturbing my peace, I've already built a medicine coffin for myself and placed it together with the medicine bed in this wooden hut. I've also forged the lightning bolt. Yun Luofeng's eyes flickered. The lightning bolt was forged by Songji? Just how powerful was he in the past? Of course, only people with virtual spirit form and spiritual body can safely pass through the lightning bolt. Even though the lightning bolt will cause them considerable harm, they can survive. Songji never thought that Yun Luofeng would meet Zhu Qian and learn the art of puppetry. Hence, she was able to pass through the lightning bolt unharmed. I hope that people with virtual spirit form will believe my words when they read this diary. I was once the best person in the world, and I would never lie. Yun Luofeng's brows twitched uncontrollably. Why did she feel that this fellow was so unreliable? But Yun Luofeng looked at the pearl on the table and swept his eyes over the half-open door of the wooden hut. After a moment of silence, he picked up the red pearl and placed it in front of Yun Xiao. Look at this pearl and see what's wrong with it. Yun Xiao picked up the heavy pearl, and only after a while did he say, there is indeed a very strong power inside. This power can be directly absorbed, and it won't cause any harm. So, Songji didn't lie to me? Yun Luofeng raised his brows. I'm suddenly very curious. What kind of person is Songji? Yun Xiao fell silent for a moment. There's a portrait of him hanging on the wall. Yun Luofeng's gaze had been fixed on the book on the table from the beginning. Hence, he had not noticed the portrait on the wall. Hearing Yun Xiao's words and seeing his irrepressible smile, Yun Luofeng could not help but look over curiously. How should I put it? The person in the portrait was different from what she had imagined. Song Ji addressed himself as an old man, so anyone would think of him as a white-haired old man. However, the person in the portrait was a handsome and cute young man. His appearance was very pure, and there was an indescribable charm in his pair of big innocent eyes. His light pink lips were slightly raised, as if he wanted to say something. Of course, Yun Luofeng believed that this fellow had the appearance of a youth, but the heart of an old man. But what made her deeply speechless was that there was a line of words written under the painting. That line was undoubtedly praising the youth in the painting. For example, the number one good person in the world, Song Ji, the most handsome man in the world, Song Ji, and the dream lover of millions of women. If one only saw these words, they would definitely think that the person who drew this painting must be someone who is madly infatuated with Song Ji. However, Yun Luofeng saw that at the bottom left corner of the painting, there were also the words, leaving brush to himself. Chapter 1999. In other words, whether it was this painting or those words, they were all completed by Song Ji alone. No wonder Yun Xiao revealed that expression earlier. This Song Ji was truly narcissistic to the point that no one in the past would be able to surpass him in the future. No one could compare to him. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng rubbed his forehead. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng and suddenly recalled Song Ji's diary. Her eyes moved slightly. Why don't we try it here? Yun Xiao nodded without hesitation. Okay. As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Luofeng felt an arm reach out and pull her into an embrace. She raised her head and met the man's affectionate and warm eyes. The man carried her in his arms and strode into the room. A wave of medicinal fragrance wafted into his nose, making Yun Luofeng feel refreshed. Yun Zhao's movements were very careful as he gently placed her on the bed, as if he was afraid that he would hurt her if he used too much force. Very quickly, both of their clothes were thrown messily on the ground. Yun Xiao gently bit Yun Luofeng's lips, his black eyes filled with an indescribable tenderness. In this small room apart from the bed, there was also a coffin. Yun Luofeng kept the red bead in his mouth from beginning to end. He could also feel that as Yun Xiao moved up and down, streams of powerful energy flowed into his body, and the spiritual energy in his body was quickly replenished at this moment. Both of them were enjoying themselves to the fullest, and they only had eyes for each other. No one noticed that a transparent light flew out from the medicine coffin and shot towards Yun Luofeng's stomach. In the end, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao were still schemed against by Song Ji. And this was the first time someone had successfully schemed against Yun Luofeng. When Yun Luofeng discovered the truth, it was not enough to describe how miserable he would be. Actually, from the fact that Song Ji was able to predict that Yun Luofeng would come to this place, it could be deduced that Song Ji would not let go of this opportunity. What a joke. The child of a spirit virtual body and a spirit entity, how much of a genius would that be? He would definitely be able to combine the strengths of both of them, so how could he give such a good opportunity to others? Absolutely not. This opportunity could only be given to him. At that time, wouldn't all the beauties in the world throw themselves into their arms when they become the children of these two? There was nothing more delightful than wielding the power of the world and lying drunk on a beauty's lap. As for the red bead, it was indeed a part of his power. After all, the virtual spirit body was his mother. Wasn't it reasonable to improve his mother's strength? If his mother was strong enough, he would be able to dominate the continent in the future. Otherwise, who would support him? Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao did not notice that the transparent light had entered them, nor did they notice that the pearl in Yun Luofeng's mouth had become brighter. Yun Luofeng only felt his body sink, as if something had entered his body. The battle lasted for a day and a night. Only on the next day did they rest, drenched in sweat. At the same time, Yun Luofeng broke through. The heavenly lightning produced when breaking through to the ultimate god realm was even stronger. Yun Luofeng once again released his azure wings to absorb the heavenly lightning. With the protection of the azure wings, not a single bolt of lightning was able to get close to Yun Luofeng. What was even more shameless was that the two people on the bed didn't care about the lightning, nor did they care about the azure wings that were fighting against the lightning. They started a new round of activity. While Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao were exercising in the small wooden house, Qi Su and Mu Xuexin returned to the Drifting Wind Nation, while Qi Ling returned to the Tianqi Nation. Chapter 2000. What awaited him in the kingdom of Tianqi was a severe reprimand. In the imperial study, the atmosphere was heavy. The emperor sat on the dragon throne with imperial concubine Lin by his side. Below them were Qi Ling and Qi Yu. Qi Ling, I heard that you obtained 3 jade seals in the Four-Nation Conference this time. The emperor went straight to the point. Your third brother is the one who will unify the 4 nations as predicted by the imperial tutor. Your jade seal is useless. It's better to give it to your third brother. After saying this, the emperor gave Qi Yu a look. Aren't you going to take the jade seal back? Yes, father. Qi Yu was overjoyed and walked towards Qi Ling. Qi Ling, so, what if you obtained 3 jade seals? In the end, you still have to give it back to me. Second brother, why haven't you handed over the jade seal? Do you want me to search you? Qi Ling straightened his back and said, the champion of the Four Nations tournament is determined by those who are capable. You keep saying that third brother is the one who will unify the 4 nations, so why didn't he win? The emperor frowned. His eyes were filled with impatience. I am only telling you to take fewer detours. How can you not know how powerful the imperial tutor is? How can his words be false? So, what if you make the 4 nations listen to you? It will be returned to your brother sooner or later. It's better to give it to him from the start. More importantly, Qi was much more obedient than Qi Ling. If Qi Ling really became the ruler of the 4 nations, he, as his father, would also have to listen to him. This was something the emperor did not want to happen. The imperial tutor said so? Qi Ling glanced at the emperor. That can only mean that the imperial tutor has a problem with his judgment. That's why he thinks that trash like Qi Yu can unify the 4 nations. Impudent. Hearing this, the emperor's expression changed. He shouted angrily, you dare to disobey my orders now. When you become the ruler of the 4 nations, won't you look down on me? Let me tell you, you have to hand over the jade seal even if you don't want to. Take it out immediately. Qi Ling's lips curled into a mocking smile. He was about to speak when the door to the study was suddenly pushed open. In an instant, a man dressed in white walked in from outside the door. This man was so beautiful that it seemed unreal. When he walked over, one could faintly see the existence of a mortal mist behind him. He held a jade flute in his hand, and his footsteps were very light and ethereal. At the same time, the civil and military officials followed behind the man. They had heard everything that had happened in the study room. If Yun Luofeng was here, he would be able to tell at a glance that this man was the one who had been playing music in the forest. In other words, he was the reincarnation of Zhu Qian. Grand Tutor, the emperor immediately stood up when he saw the man appear. I still remember that you once said that my third imperial son would unify the 4 kingdoms in the future. I remember this clearly. The man raised his lips and smiled faintly. His smile was incomparably beautiful. The most beautiful color in the world could not compare to that smile. However, his smile was different from Ji Jiutian's arrogance. It was also different from Chen Yuqing's gentleness. It was also different from Yun Zhao's deep love. His smile was so cold that it made people's hearts ache. I did say these words. The emperor heaved a sigh of relief. However, before he could speak, the man's voice rang out again. However, I was just teasing you. Did you not notice? Chapter 2001. I was just teasing you. Don't tell me you didn't notice? The emperor's face darkened. Imperial advisor, what did you just say? Teasing them? What kind of joke was this? All these years, why did he give Qi Yu so much love? Wasn't it because Qi Yu was praised by the imperial advisor as the person who would unify the 4 kingdoms in the future? In the end, the imperial advisor told him that he was joking with them? It seems that you really did not notice that I was joking. The man's handsome face showed a hint of surprise. Do you really think that an idiot like Qi Yu could become the #1 person in the 4 kingdoms? The word idiot enraged both Qi Yu and imperial concubine Lin. Imperial advisor, Did Qiling give you something in return for you to speak up for him? You clearly said that you would unify the four kingdoms. Imperial concubine Lin gritted her teeth, her face ashen. Something in return? The man laughed coldly when he heard this. Then, in Imperial concubine Lin's eyes, what kind of benefits would bribe this imperial advisor? Imperial concubine Lin was so angry that she was about to speak, but the emperor, who had just regained his senses, immediately glared at her, causing her to swallow the flower in her mouth. Imperial tutor, the emperor's expression was extremely ugly. As he spoke, there was a hateful attitude. Back then, why did you make such a joke? Do you know how big of a mistake I made because of your joke? The man raised his eyes and smiled. Imperial concubine Lin was disrespectful to this imperial advisor, so why can't I make such a joke? In an instant, everyone's gaze fell upon Imperial concubine Lin's ashen face. Nonsense. Imperial concubine Lin shouted angrily, "Don't you dare smear my name. When did I disrespect you?"
Oh?
Then, who was the one who cheesed this imperial advisor more than 10 years ago? Could it be that Your Highness thinks that it was just a joke? Imperial concubine Lin's face flushed red as the events of the past were brought up once again by the man. She seemed to sense the emperor's raging gaze and bit her lip. Yes, I was only joking with the imperial advisor. Who knew that the imperial advisor would take it seriously?
Oh?
The man looked as if he had suddenly understood. If Your Highness was joking with this imperial advisor, why can't I do the same? Am I right, Your Majesty? The man's eyes were smiling as he slowly turned towards the furious emperor. The emperor suddenly stepped forward, picked up Imperial concubine Lin, and gave her 2 slaps. He roared in anger, "You slut! As a concubine of the palace, you do not follow the rules of womanhood, and even dared to tease the imperial advisor. Men, drag this woman away and await her punishment." Imperial concubine Lin's entire body was numb from the 2 slaps. Her body felt weak and she gradually collapsed. Her face was filled with despair. She understood that everything was over. As for Qiyu, who she had placed all her hopes on after seeing the scene, he was so scared that he didn't even dare to say a word. He hid at the side and didn't make a sound, afraid that he would implicate himself. The man slowly walked up to Imperial concubine Lin. His smile was like the spring breeze, but it did not reach his eyes. "You once tried to seduce me. After I rejected you, you flew into a rage out of humiliation and tried to frame me. Fortunately, I dodged your scheme and didn't let you have your way. But I've already remembered this matter in my heart. That's why I'm letting your son bear the consequences of your mistakes so that he can be destroyed." Since the imperial tutor was called the imperial tutor, how could his abilities be ordinary? Chapter 2002. He could tell a person's character from their facial features. The emperor was muddle-headed and tyrannical, while imperial concubine Lin was arrogant and complacent. If they knew that Qiyu was to become the most powerful man in the 4 countries, their love for him would definitely destroy him. Of course, if not for what he had said, and without the emperor's indulgence and love, Qiyu might not be such an idiot. Imperial tutor, you're ruthless. Imperial concubine Lin closed her eyes. She remembered that 10 years ago, she was still a young girl, even though she married the emperor 2 years earlier and gave birth to the 4th prince. But her heart was still very young. In the imperial palace, when she first met this peerless imperial tutor, she unconsciously fell in love with him. She even thought that if he was willing to take her away from the imperial palace, she would give up all her glory and wealth to be with him. But she didn't expect that this man would reject her so decisively. Because of this, her love turned into hatred. She wanted to frame the empress, Qiling's mother, for having an affair with this imperial tutor. At that time, the violent emperor would definitely kill these 2 people, who knew that the imperial tutor had already known of her little tricks and easily resolved it. From then on, she understood that her every move could not be hidden from this man. She used this opportunity to give up on her plans. As she grew older, she was already old and faded, while the imperial tutor was still as beautiful as ever. She knew that she was not worthy of the imperial tutor, so she never caused trouble for him again. Who would have thought that the imperial tutor had always held a grudge against her, and had even made such a big move? At this moment, 2 palace guards had already walked to imperial concubine Lin's side. They supported her limp body, and were about to walk out of the study. However, they had only taken 2 steps when they were stopped by Qiling. "I still have some matters to settle with imperial concubine Lin." His eyes were filled with murderous intent. "I wonder if imperial concubine Lin can explain to me how you managed to mobilize the gods in the imperial palace? And to allow Qiyu to win, you killed the subordinates I brought with me?" Imperial concubine Lin trembled. Facing the imperial tutor, she felt fear from the bottom of her heart, so she did not deny what she had done. But in front of Qiling, she would never admit it. "Qiling, don't try to frame me. I have never done such a thing." "Really?" Qiling smiled coldly. "It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. I just want to be sure that you did it. I don't know how Imperial Father will punish you, but I will never let you off." As soon as he finished speaking, the entire study fell silent. After a long time, his voice rang out again. "Men, drag this woman away and tear her to pieces. Also, stuff her body into the statue and make her kneel in front of the graves of those warriors for eternity to repent." "No!" Imperial concubine Lin shrieked. "Qiling, you can't do this. I'm the imperial concubine. You can't treat me like this." Having said that, she struggled violently out of the hands of the 2 guards and quickly walked towards the emperor. "Your Majesty, please save me. I know I was wrong. Please ask the second prince to let me go." The emperor looked coldly at imperial concubine Lin, his eyes filled with anger and hatred. "You want to make me a cuckold, and you still want me to save you? I'm already being merciful by not punishing you myself. Why are you still standing here? Drag this woman away so she won't be an eyesore." Chapter 2003. In this life, he hated betrayal the most. Although imperial concubine Lin did not actually sleep with another man, she had the intention to do so. She must die. Qiling did not even look at the emperor. His gaze gradually turned to Qiyu. That cold gaze caused Qiyu to tremble. He knelt down with a thud. Qiyu was the emperor's son after all. He could not bear to see him like this. "Ling you is your younger brother. He did not do anything wrong. Please forgive him." Qiling's cold gaze swept across the emperor. "Who allowed you to speak?" The emperor's face turned green. "What do you mean? We are your imperial father. Without your permission, would imperial concubine Lin be able to mobilize the elders?" Qiling smiled coldly. "You can't even protect yourself now. You still want to plead for others?" The emperor's lips trembled. His face contorted. He was clearly enraged. He took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. "Ling as long as we are your father, you will have to be filial to me for the rest of your life. We asked you to release your younger brother. Do you dare to refuse? Only a benevolent father can have a filial son. If the father is not benevolent, why should the son be filial?" Qiling finished speaking and walked towards Qiyu. He did not even spare the emperor a glance. The emperor was furious. "Qiling, stop right there. Do you think that you can disregard me just because you are the #1 person in the 4 countries? No matter what, we are still your father. You must listen to our words." Qiling stopped in his tracks. His voice was cold. "Guards, take him away. Without my orders, he is not allowed to step out of the room." That one sentence had already determined the emperor's future orders. He was in confinement. He could not leave for the rest of his life. The emperor sneered. This was the kingdom of Tianqi, after all. Would the people of the kingdom of Tianqi listen to Qiling? However, just as the emperor was indifferent, the officials and guards had already moved. Without waiting for Qiling's orders, they had already grabbed the emperor's arm and dragged him out. "What are you doing?" "I am the emperor." "Stop." The emperor panicked and immediately roared. Unfortunately, those officials could not bear to see his incompetent and tyrannical behavior. Naturally, they would not let him go at this time. Ling becoming the emperor was something that everyone expected. Furthermore, he was the one who made the kingdom of Tianqi the number one of the four kingdoms. Moreover, the other countries had to listen to them. With such a result, the two ultimate gods did not have any objections. Therefore, the Dog Emperor's fate was basically foreseeable. Second brother. Qi swallowed with some difficulty as a fawning smile appeared on his face. I had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai previously. I have offended you greatly. Please forgive me this once on account that we are brothers. Your crime is different from your mother's. You don't deserve to die. However, you've been arrogant, despotic, and hedonistic for so many years. You've made countless mistakes. Ling's voice was cold. Therefore, I will let people parade you on the streets. Your fate will be decided by the public. Qi's expression immediately changed. He immediately looked like he was about to cry. Second brother, aren't you trying to take my life? All these years, he had raped women, killed countless people, and committed all kinds of crimes. However, because his father was the emperor, no one dared to punish him. Chapter 2004. Therefore, there was no one in the entire state of Tianqi who didn't hate him. If he was paraded through the streets and allowed the masses to punish him, it would be equivalent to asking him to die. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Ling waved his hand coldly. Take him away. Whether he can survive or not will depend on his own ability. Of course, Qi's body had long been hollowed out by alcohol and lust. The chances of him surviving were equivalent to 0. Then, Ling walked out of the study amidst Yu's ghostly wails. A gust of fresh air blew into his face, making him feel refreshed. He couldn't help but think of the imperial tutor who had helped him. He was about to thank the imperial tutor when he suddenly realized that the imperial tutor who had been standing in the study had disappeared on the street. The man was dressed in a snow-white robe. His handsome face revealed a trace of absent-mindedness. He didn't know why he had come to this street. He only felt that there seemed to be a destined person waiting for him. Just as the man was frowning and pondering, he didn't see the road in front of him. Instead, he suddenly collided with the absent-minded youth. The youth's face immediately darkened. He raised his eyes that were filled with rage. However, at that moment, a handsome face was imprinted in his eyes. What caught his attention was naturally not the man's unparalleled handsome face, but the man's body had a very familiar aura. That aura was too similar to Zhu Qian's. The youth's eyes were a little dull. Before he could regain his senses, the man's gentle voice sounded in his ears. Are you all right? The man's tone was very ethereal, like a dream. It also made the youth recover from his daze. He wasn't Zhu Qian. A person like Zhu Qian was arrogant and domineering, and the man in front of him was too gentle. How could such a gentle person be that bloodthirsty and cold Zhu Qian? I'm fine. Qianqing shook his head and slightly lowered his eyes. Didn't he already find Zhu Qian? Why was he stunned by the man in front of him at that moment? If you're fine, then I can rest assured. The man smiled. That smile was like a spring breeze that slowly spread across his face. What's your name? Qianqing bit his lips and asked shyly. Feng Jin. Feng Jin? This name suddenly made Qianqing think of a phrase, you look at the scenery from a distance, I look at you from a close distance. The surname Feng is so special. Oh right, my name is Qianqing. Qianqing's face lit up with a lovely smile, his eyes curved into a beautiful smile. Feng Jin smiled and gently rubbed Qianqing's head with his big hand. Qianqing, I will remember you. However, I have something to do and have to leave. If fate allows it, we will meet again. Yes? What is it? Qianqing asked in disappointment. I'm going to find my destined person. The heavens had given him a body with terrible talent, but at the same time, he had a pair of discerning eyes and a root of wisdom. Unfortunately, he could see the fate of others, but he could never see his own. For example, the young man in front of him was fated to have a bumpy road of love, and he would never be able to find love in his entire life. A hint of pity appeared in Feng Jin's eyes when he thought of this. Such a cute and handsome young man had to end up like this. How could he not feel sorry for him? Mo Qiancheng, let's meet again if fate allows it. Feng Jin made a goodbye gesture, turned around and walked towards the street in a carefree manner. Chapter 2005. At that moment, his footsteps suddenly stopped as a young man's clear voice came from behind him. If I'm a woman in my next life and you're a man, will you marry me? Zhu Qian, if I'm a woman in my next life and you're a man, will you marry me? Faintly, a familiar voice came into Feng Jin's mind. It was distant yet close to him. His destined partner was a man? Feng Jin laughed and shook his head. He must have gotten something wrong. His sexual orientation was normal, and he had always liked women. How could he be a man? However, Feng Jin replied to the young man's question. If you're really a woman in your next life, it's not a problem for me to marry you. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure slowly walked into the crowd and disappeared from the chaotic street. Mo Qiancheng looked at the man's back disappointedly and gently pursed her beautiful pink lips.
He's not Zhu Qian.
If he heard what I said, he wouldn't have bothered to answer. After all, Zhu Qian is such an arrogant person. Why would he answer such a childish question? Moreover, the Zhu Qian in my heart can't be so gentle. He's always so high and mighty, stepping on everyone in the world. If Zhu Qian was as gentle as this man back then, perhaps he would not be in so much pain. At least, the man in front of him would not be like Zhu Qian, who ignored him after finding out about his love. Mo Qiancheng looked down and covered his eyes. His eyes were filled with sadness and pain. He took one last look at the direction Feng Jin disappeared and walked in another direction, Wind Cloud City. Inside the wooden hut, it was another round of sweating. Yun Luofeng's body was already soaked in sweat. Her body was tightly pressed against the man on top of her. They could hear each other's heavy breathing. It should be about time. I hope I can get pregnant this time. Yun Luofeng was panting. Even though she had broken through to the ultimate god realm, she could not withstand Yun Zhao's torment. Fortunately, her dual cultivation with Yun Xiao could stabilize her cultivation base and was not as weak as when she had just broken through to the ultimate god realm. It's okay even if you don't. Yun Xiao lowered his head and kissed the woman's lips. You're enough for me. Just as Yun Xiao was about to do it again, Yun Luofeng slapped over and flung him away fiercely. We've been here for half a month. It's about time. I reckon Qi Su and Qi Ling are almost done with their preparations. I'm going back to meet up with them and discuss how to deal with the Freedom Alliance. Yun Xiao furrowed her brows. If you want to deal with the Freedom Alliance, I can help you flatten them. There's no need to go through so much trouble. More importantly, he didn't want to disturb them because of the Freedom Alliance. No, we must let the two of them deal with this matter. If it really doesn't work out, we'll intervene. Yun Luofeng refuted Yun Zhao's words. All right, I'll listen to you. Yun Xiao didn't ask why. He believed in Yun Luofeng. No matter what Yun Luofeng wanted to do, she would have her reasons. So he just had to support her as always. Aren't you going to ask me why? Yun Luofeng blinked and asked. Yun Xiao lowered her head and bit her lips again. Do you remember what I said to you before?
What?
You kill people, and I bury their bodies. Similarly, you can do whatever you want, and I'll take care of the aftermath. Chapter 2006. No matter what you do, I will let you do it. With me taking care of the aftermath, you will have nothing to fear. Yun Luofeng smiled. Her smile was beautiful, so beautiful that it took one's breath away. Yun Xiao, in this world, only you can understand me. She returned the man a kiss. What I want is never for you to protect me. I want to be the woman who fights alongside you. This time's mission is a chance for Qi Su and Qi Ling to establish their power in the mainland. Naturally, we can't give up so easily. That's why I plan to let them do it first. Then we'll act according to the situation. Yun Zhao's gaze was affectionate and warm. His woman was never someone who hid behind him, but someone who relied on her own strength to hold up the sky. And in the beginning, It was because of this that he admired her, wasn't it? Foam, or let's do it again, okay? Yun Zhao's gaze carried some anticipation. Don't worry, this time I will be fast. 2 hours will be enough. Who knows, on the last time here, I might successfully conceive. Yun Luofeng's mouth twitched. Are you sure it'll end in 2 hours?
Yes.
Okay. Yun Xiao would never lie to her, so she thought for a moment and agreed. 2 hours, it shouldn't be a problem. As expected, Yun Xiao was a man who never lied. If he said 2 hours, it would definitely be 2 hours, not a minute less. When the time reached 2 hours, it just happened to end. Yun Luofeng's body was already soft. She gritted her teeth. Do you need to control time so well? Yun Zhao's gaze was very innocent. I didn't exceed 2 hours. Not a minute less. Yun Luofeng glared at him. Go get my clothes. We'll leave in a bit. Okay. Yun Xiao was finally willing to leave this warm and delicate body, to pick up the clothes he threw on the ground. When they were in bed, he did his best to serve Yun Luofeng. When they got off the bed, he also did his best to help her dress and pack her luggage. He even took the books on the table with him. After all, he didn't know when Yun Luofeng would want these books. Yun Xiao. Before leaving, Yun Luofeng took one last look at this wooden house, his fingers lightly stroking his lower abdomen. I have a feeling, maybe this time, I can really conceive. How do you know? Mother and son are connected. Yun Xiao pondered for a moment before suddenly asking, why are you sure it's a son and not a daughter? I'm not too sure either. Perhaps it's just my sixth sense. Actually, I don't really care about having children. Although I prefer daughters, sons aren't too bad either. The prerequisite is that they aren't as narcissistic and shameless as Zhongji. Otherwise, wouldn't all the women in the world be ruined by him? Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng did not know that her son was not just like Zhongji. It was Zhongji himself. Of course, the pitiful Zhongji had not even started to harm a woman when he was already harmed by a woman. And this was a disaster that would last for a lifetime. I like daughters. Yun Zhao's gaze became even more affectionate. If it was a daughter, she would definitely look like you. Is that so? When our daughter gets married, you'll understand how the old man felt when he married me. Yun Luofeng curled her lips. She was starting to miss Grandpa. If Grandpa saw Bai Ling, he would definitely be very excited. But Yun Luofeng suddenly wanted to tease Yun Xiao. If a man steals our daughter, kill him. Yun Zhao's voice suddenly turned cold, and a murderous look appeared in her eyes. This murderous look was naturally not directed at Yun Luofeng, but towards that future son-in-law who is still somewhere unknown. Chapter 2007. Yun Luofeng's eyebrows twitched. Kill? That was indeed Yun Zhao's style. It's getting late. Let's go. Yun Luofeng stretched his back lazily and looked back at the small wooden hut. Then he walked towards the back of the mountain. As they left the back of the mountain, they didn't notice that after their figures disappeared, the small wooden hut in the back of the mountain suddenly collapsed. Freedom Alliance. In a dark and damp woodshed, Golden Sun Princess Lian Yueshing stood quietly in front of the window. The corners of her clothes fluttered elegantly in the wind. Her upright posture was indescribably arrogant and cold. Even in such a bad situation, she wasn't willing to lower herself.
Creak.
The door was pushed open. When Lian Yueshing turned her head to look, she saw Lang Xinyu walking in. She said coldly, "What business do you have with me?" Lang Xinyu smiled. Her smile was filled with jealousy and hatred. Golden Sun Princess, do you know why the Alliance leader took a liking to you? Why should I know? Lian Yueshing smiled mockingly. Moreover, the Freedom Alliance doesn't seem to be free. Instead, it's as overbearing as the Four Nations. Why would he have a reason for doing things? Lang Xinyue's hands involuntarily clenched tightly. A cold look flashed across her eyes. You're wrong. The Alliance leader isn't the kind of person you think he is. In his entire life, I was his only woman. You're the second one, and he only loved Yun Yueqing. Who knew that Yun Yueqing wouldn't know what's good for her? She actually treated the Alliance leader like that. Even though she had become the Alliance leader's concubine, she still couldn't win his heart. However, Yun Yueqing, who had won the alliance leader's heart, was disdainful of him. How could she not be angry? The alliance leader wanted you to be his woman because you have a pure in body. When she heard the words, pure in body, Lien Yueqing's originally nonchalant expression suddenly changed. Even her pupils constricted. A pure in body can be used by men to nourish yang. Do you think the alliance leader would let someone like you be taken by another man? Lang Xingyue sneered as he walked towards Lien Yueqing. Unfortunately, the alliance master is dead. He died at the hands of Ghost Emperor Yun Shao. Lien Yueqing was stunned. The leader of the Freedom Alliance was dead? Then why did Lang Xingyue want to capture him? Since he's dead, why did you bring me here? Lien Yueqing was puzzled and naturally asked. Lang Xinyue's eyes were filled with intense hatred. The alliance master is dead, so I naturally have to avenge him. I brought you here so that the men of the Freedom Alliance can have a taste of you. With you around, the Freedom Alliance's strength will rise to another level in a short period of time. This is your role. Lien Yueqing's body stiffened. She took a deep breath and said, I won't let you have your ways. It's not up to you. Lang Xinyue fiercely flung his sleeves and swept a cold glance at Lien Yueqing. Men, bring Princess Golden Sun away and summon all the members of the Freedom Alliance. With that, Lang Xinyue ordered a few people to take Lien Yueqing down, then turned around and walked out of the woodshed. Yun Yueqing, the alliance leader loved you so much, yet you ruthlessly trampled on his heart and helped an outsider to harm him. Chapter 2008. Then I will definitely avenge the chief. Be it you or the others who helped you, none of you will be able to escape death. The Freedom Alliance wasn't a small tribe, but a huge city. The chief's residence was naturally located in the center of the city, which was also the most luxurious area. At that moment, everyone in the Freedom Alliance received Lang Xinyue's message. They rushed over from all directions and gathered at the plaza in front of the city lord's residence. Miss Lang, why did you look for us in such a hurry this time? An elderly man in the group couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. Lang Xinyue looked at the group of people below her, her eyes filled with grief. I came to inform you all of something. The chief is dead.
What?
The chief was dead? Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Some of the elderly men even began to tremble. The former chief had only passed away a few years ago, yet the current chief was also dead? Could it be that the heavens really wanted the Freedom Alliance to perish? Miss Lang, hurry up and tell us what happened. How did the chief die? The elderly man's breathing was a little hurried as he asked anxiously. Lang Xinyue lowered her eyelids slightly. This is all my fault. I didn't protect the chief well. She slowly raised her eyelids. In that instant, her eyes were filled with sorrow. No one could bear to blame this innocent girl anymore. Even the alliance master had died, so one could imagine how powerful that person was. Lang Xinyue must have been lucky enough to escape this calamity, so how could they blame her for it? Miss Lang, you don't have to blame yourself. Hurry up and tell us who caused the chief's death so that we can avenge her. Lang Xinyue's eyelashes trembled slightly. Actually, all of you know the person who caused the chief's death. She is Yun Yueqing.
Boom.
The name Yun Yueqing was like a heavy boulder that smashed into the hearts of this group of people. The elderly men who had followed the former chief for many years cried out in shock. Impossible. How could it be Yun Yueqing? She was the former chief's disciple and the current chief's junior sister. How could she do such a thing? Lang Xinyue's eyes flickered with tears and indignation. I didn't want to tell you about this at first, but the Alliance Master didn't want me to tell you, because we are brothers and sisters. But now that the Alliance Master has died in the hands of that bitch, how can I cover up for her, because we are from the same sect? Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they saw Lang Xinyue's hateful expression. Could something have happened between the Alliance Master and Yun Yueqing? Do you know why Yun Yueqing hasn't returned to the Alliance all these years? Lang Xinyue clenched her fists tightly. That's because, right before Master passed away, she made a trip back. Furthermore, the Alliance Master discovered something. I still remember that day. Not long after Master passed away, Alliance Master found Yun Yueqing rummaging through Master's room. As she searched, she cursed Master as an old fart. At the time, I was by her side and heard clearly what seal she was looking for. Seal? Everyone's hearts skipped a beat. After the previous Alliance leader passed away, the seal had disappeared. No one had been able to find it. Could it be that Yun Yueqing had taken it? Chapter 2009. Lang Xinyue's gaze swept over the crowd, and the darkness in her eyes deepened. The Alliance leader has always been very filial to her master. After hearing this, she rushed out to question Yun Yueqing. However, in order to hide this matter, she actually tried to seduce the Alliance leader. Very few people in the Alliance knew that the Alliance leader was in love with Yun Yueqing. Now that she said this, no one doubted her. As expected, compared to Yun Yueqing, the crowd was more willing to believe Lang Xinyue, who had grown up in the Alliance. Only a few elders didn't believe that Yun Yueqing was such an ingrate. When the Alliance chief saw this, he became furious and injured Yun Yueqing. However, on account of their relationship as brothers and sisters, he did not deal a heavy blow. However, Yun Yueqing escaped with injuries. He left for a couple of years until the Alliance chief received a letter from Yun Yueqing not long ago. Yun Yueqing said that she wanted to reconcile with the Alliance leader and realized her own mistakes. The Alliance leader also forgave her, so the Alliance leader brought a group of people to find Yun Yueqing and planned to bring her back. Who would have thought that Yun Yueqing would join forces with outsiders and kill the Alliance leader? Out of so many people that the Alliance leader brought, only I escaped. Lang Xinyue couldn't help but cover her face and cry at the end. Her description was very vivid, and no one could hear the problem in her words. Yun Yueqing is really bold. Back then, when she was wandering outside and lost all her memories, it was the old Alliance leader who saved her and gave her a superior life and powerful strength. Is this how she repaid the Freedom Alliance? Poor old Alliance leader. He always treated her like a daughter. How could she do such an ingrate? This is too much. This is too much. Miss Lang, tell us where Yun Yueqing is right now. We are going to take revenge for the Alliance leader. Everyone's emotions were stirred. If Yun Yueqing was in front of them, they would definitely tear him to pieces. Of course, there was still a rational elder in the crowd. He merely frowned and asked, Miss Lang, is what you said true? Yun Yueqing doesn't seem like someone who would do such a thing. Elder Zhen, you may know a person's face, but not his heart. How do you know Yun Yueqing's true character? We watched Miss Lang grow up, and she has never lied. In my opinion, it is Yun Yueqing who has wild ambitions and delusions of unifying our Freedom Alliance. That's right, Miss Lang. Immediately tell me where Yun Yueqing is. You don't need to care about our past friendship. This woman is not fit to be a member of our Freedom Alliance. Lang Xinyue's expression did not change when she saw how agitated these people were. She raised her hand, and in that instant, the entire crowd fell silent, waiting for her to speak. Everyone, since the people Yun Yueqing found can defeat the Alliance Master, we'll just be throwing our lives away if we go alone. The crowd was silent. Everyone was waiting for Lang Xinyue's next words. Then, under everyone's gaze, Lang Xinyue continued, however, Master once gave me a secret manual. That secret manual recorded how to quickly break through to the Divine Lord realm. If I become a Divine Monarch, would I still be afraid of those people? Divine Monarch. These two words had already touched the chord in everyone's heart, causing their breathing to tighten slightly and their hearts to be filled with nervousness. Chapter 2010. As long as all the godly venerable ones transfer your abilities to me, I'll be able to master them through Master's secret manual. Very soon, I'll reach the level of a Sir God. By then, will there still be anyone in the Wind Cloud continent who can be our match? Lang Xinyue's expression was solemn as she spoke in a clear voice. In reality, this method also had its own repercussions. Even if she could reach the level of a Divine Lord with the help of these people, she would still have to endure unbearable pain every full moon night. That was also why the Alliance Master had never used this method despite knowing about it. However, for the sake of revenge, she couldn't care less anymore. As long as Yun Yueqing could die, everything would be worth it. The crowd fell silent once again. After all, humans were selfish by nature. How would they be willing to sacrifice their abilities for Lang Xingyue to break through? I know you have your own considerations, but you have to think about it. My master was kind to all of you in the past. The current Alliance Master, who is my senior brother, has also been kind to all of you. Don't you want to avenge him? Don't worry. All of you have sacrificed everything for me and the Alliance. I, Lang Xingyue, will not mistreat all of you. In the future, no matter what you encounter, the Alliance will be the first to stand up for you. No matter the battle, you won't have to do anything. Furthermore, I can give you all a lifetime without worrying about food or clothing. When the time comes, the Alliance will become the true ruler of the Wind Cloud continent. You won't have to be afraid anymore. The crowd's hearts trembled. Yes, if the Freedom Alliance became the ruler of the Wind Cloud continent, who in the world could do anything to them? Miss Lang, I hope you can fulfill your promise. The Freedom Alliance will never abandon us. If you agree, we will contribute our abilities. All right, I, Lang Xingyue, can swear to the heavens that as long as you are willing to contribute your abilities, I won't abandon you as long as you don't do anything to harm me in the future. Lang Xinyue's eyes were cold, provided that they did not do anything to betray her. Otherwise, she would not forgive them either. The crowd heaved a sigh of relief when they heard Lang Xinyue swear to the heavens. They slowly walked toward her.
Wait.
Just as the few ultimate gods walked up to Lang Xingyue suddenly raised his hand to stop them. I have something else to announce.
What is it?
When someone asked this question, Lang Xingyue raised his hand and ordered the two guards to bring Lian Yuexing over. He then threw her to the ground and retreated to the side. Lian Yuexing's mouth was gagged and she couldn't say a word. Her cold eyes were filled with anger as she stared coldly at Lang Xingyue. Lang Xingyue did not even glance at her. She sneered and said, "This woman is also in cahoots with Yun Yueqing. When I was fleeing, he captured her." Not many people in the Freedom Alliance had seen Princess Jinyang before, so they did not recognize her. Even if they recognized her, so what? Even if the other party was the Golden Sun Princess, as long as she said that this woman was related to Yun Yueqing, these people would definitely believe her. Someone who conspires with Yun Yueqing? Then we can't let this woman live either. Miss Lang, I mind killing this woman. Make Yun Yueqing regret this. Those people were about to rush forward and tear Lian Yuexing to shreds, but at this critical moment, Lang Xingyue stopped them once again. Chapter 2011. Do you think killing this woman will make Yun Yueqing regret it? You're wrong. Yun Yueqing has always been a ruthless person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so cruel to the Alliance Master. There's another reason why I caught this woman. She has a pure Yin body. Pure Yin body. Everyone's breathing quickened. Some of them looked at Lian Yuexing with sparkling eyes. Therefore, when the time comes, this woman will benefit our brothers in the Freedom Alliance. With her around, I believe that the Freedom Alliance's strength will increase very quickly. Lang Xingyue pushed Lian Yuexing forward and slightly raised his chin with a cold smile on his face. Lian Yuexing trembled with anger as she felt the undisguised stares. Her cold eyes were filled with uncontrollable anger as she glared at the people in front of her. Throw her into the herb cave. She'll be able to harvest Yin to replenish Yang in half a month. It was not enough for a pure Yin body to harvest Yin to replenish Yang. She needed to train with medicinal herbs. However, anyone who saw the place, known as the Medicine Cave, would be so frightened that they would tremble. Lang Xingyue. The cloth in Lian Yuexing's mouth had loosened at some point. She spat it out and spat it out. Immediately, she raised her clear and cold eyes and looked coldly at the expressionless Lang Xingyue. I, Lian Yuexing, will never let you have your way even if I have to die. Lang Xingyue smiled disdainfully. You want to die in my Freedom Alliance? Once you enter the herb cave, you'll be in a state where you can neither live nor die. You won't even have the strength to move, let alone die. Men, hurry up and take her away." If she had to blame someone, she could only blame Lian Yuesheng for having a pure in body. Seeing such a body, not to mention men, even she, a woman, could not help but be tempted after seeing Lian Yuesheng being taken away. Lang Xinhua looked at the others and said, "Let's begin." Compared to the Jinyang nation's ultimate gods, the Freedom Alliance obviously had more ultimate gods. However, when the former alliance master was still alive, he only sought stability and was unwilling to start a war. That was why the Fengyun continent was so peaceful. Of course, the alliance master had used a secret technique to enhance those ultimate gods. The others in the Freedom Alliance did not know about it. Therefore, there were only 10 ultimate gods in the entire Freedom Alliance. However, those ultimate gods' powers were enough for her to break through to the Divine Emperor realm, not far away from the Alliance city. Qiling has been waiting here with a group of experts. After a while, he saw Qi Su and the others from the Purple Moon Kingdom and Tianqi Kingdom. As for Golden Sun Country, having joined the Freedom Alliance, they naturally didn't have the face to appear in front of the other countries. Second Prince. Qi Su spotted Qiling at first glance and slowly walked towards him. Qiling nodded at him. "You're here?" "That's right." Qi Su smiled faintly. "I've already informed Miss Yun. She'll rush over here directly." Qiling was very polite to Qi Su. After all, Qi Su was Yun Luofeng's man, and the reason why he had his current status was also because of Yun Luofeng. More importantly, he had admired Qi Su before this. However, in the face of the Purple Moon Kingdom's General Lin, he didn't have such a good temper. He just glanced at him coldly and said, "You're late." Chapter 2012. Lin was stunned. He wanted to say that Qi Su was also late. "Why did you say that to me?" But, thinking of Qiling's current status, he didn't dare to say a word. "They're here." Suddenly, Qi Su seemed to feel something and raised his head. At that moment, a handsome man and a beautiful woman above the void came into his eyes. The couple stood hand in hand, beautiful like a painting that could topple a country, like a celestial couple. "My mother didn't come?" Yun Luofeng descended from the sky, looked at the people present, and asked. "Master is already here. She said that she will go to the Alliance City alone first. Let me come here to meet you." Mother went to the Alliance City alone. Yun Luofeng's eyes sank. "Qi Su, Qiling, get ready to set off immediately. We are going to the Alliance City now." In the Purple Moon Kingdom's team, in addition to General Lin, there is also a girl in red. This girl is heroic and elegant, and her appearance is somewhat similar to Lin's. Presumably, she is his daughter. From the moment Yun Xiao appeared, the girl's eyes have not left him. Of course, in the Purple Moon Kingdom, Yun Xiao wore a mask to the world. Now beside Yun Luofeng, he did not wear a mask, so Lin and his daughter did not recognize that he is the Ghost Emperor. Now, when the girl in red saw Yun Luofeng giving orders, she suddenly shouted with some dissatisfaction. "The leader is the second prince of Qiling. He is also one of the people who unified our 4 countries. He did not speak. What right do you have to order us?" Yun Luofeng's cold eyes slowly passed the girl's face, did not even say a word, and walked in the direction of the Alliance City.
"Idiot."
Qi Su walked in front of the girl in red and couldn't help but spit out these 2 words contemptuously, then quickly followed behind Yun Luofeng and disappeared. The girl's face turned from green to white, full of anger. She did not have time to vent the dissatisfaction in her heart. General Lin, who was beside her, grabbed her. Didn't you see that when that woman gave orders, the second prince of Tianqi Kingdom did not say a word? Presumably, the identity of this woman is not simple. You'd better not provoke her." Yen bit her red lips as her eyes stared longingly at Yun Zhao's figure. Lin naturally noticed her gaze and was stunned. Suddenly, he frowned. "Why do I feel that this man's figure is very familiar? Father, do you know him?" "I don't know him. It's just that I feel that his back is a little similar to the Ghost Emperor's." "I don't know if it's just my imagination." "Ghost Emperor? Ian laughed. Who in the Purple Moon Kingdom doesn't know that this ghost emperor is ugly? Otherwise, the princess wouldn't have fled in order to resist the marriage. How could such an ugly ghost emperor be such a handsome man? You must have recognized the wrong person. Hearing this, a dazed look flashed across Elin's eyes. Perhaps he had really made a mistake? Was there really someone in the world who could imagine such a figure? Even his temperament was different from the rest. In front of them, Yun Zhao's hand was wrapped around Yun Luofeng's waist. His handsome face was filled with frost. That woman kept staring at me. Yun Luofeng was stunned by his words and subconsciously looked at him. And then? So, Yun Zhao's face was serious. If she is still alive after this war, can I dig out her eyes? Yun Luofeng has long been accustomed to Yun Zhao's blood from time to time, so he was already used to it. The group of people behind her staggered and almost fell to the ground. Big brother, can you not say such cruel words with such a serious expression? Moreover, she just glanced at you, and you want to dig out her eyes. Chapter 2013. At that moment, everyone's eyes landed on the two people in front of them. Their eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. Yun Luofeng walked in the direction of the Alliance City as if she hadn't heard what Yun Xiao had said. She was filled with murderous intent when she thought about how her mother had been treated in the Alliance City. At that moment, in the Alliance City, Bai Ling was dressed in a snow-white dress as she walked into the city slowly. She raised her head slightly and looked at the Alliance City that she had lived in for more than 10 years. She looked a little dazed at that moment. A group of people sensed Bai Ling's approach. They immediately descended from the sky and placed countless swords on her neck. Yun Yueqing, how dare you come back? The Freedom Alliance saved you, but you killed the Alliance leader. We must avenge him. Bai Ling narrowed her eyes and glanced at everyone coldly. She opened her thin lips and said slowly, I'm here for Lang Xinyue. Get her out here right now. Among the group of people, one of them replied to Bai Ling with a sneer, Miss Lang is right. You're the one who caused the death of the Alliance leader and many experts in the Alliance. Now you still want to kill the only survivor, Miss Lang? Bai Ling, has your conscience been eaten by a dog? Bai Ling couldn't be bothered to talk to these people. In a flash, she passed through the layers of sword gleams and flew into the sky with a swoosh. Lang Xinyue, get your ass out here right now. Her voice was bone-chilling in the sky, and it echoed in the air. However, at that moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly flashed not far ahead and struck down fiercely at a house. Bai Ling squinted her eyes slightly, and her breathing quickened. Sir God. Someone was actually breaking through to Sir God at this time? Could it be? Bai Ling quickly charged toward the place where the lightning struck when she thought of that possibility. The heavenly lightning was extremely ferocious. Layer after layer of lightning continuously fell. Under the heavenly lightning, the house was smashed into ruins. The woman who was sitting cross-legged in the house also came into Bai Ling's sight. The lightning dissipated. Lang Xinyue's eyes widened. She felt the power in her body. Then, she looked at Bai Ling, who was standing nearby, and her lips curled into a mocking smile. Yun Yueqing, it seems like you also never imagined that such a day would come. She slowly stood up from the ground, her chin raised high, her face full of arrogance. Around her, a group of elders were also sitting cross-legged. At this moment, their faces were pale from exhaustion, and their bodies were covered in cold sweat. When they saw Bai Ling, the uninvited guest, their eyes were filled with anger. Yun Yueqing, how dare you come back? Previously, you were disrespectful to the old Alliance Master. Before the old Alliance Master's corpse was even cold, you dared to covet the seal. Later, because the Alliance Master discovered your secret, you killed them. How can a woman like you be so vicious? Even an ingrate wouldn't go as far as you. Fortunately, Miss Lang has already broken through to become a divine monarch. It's impossible for you to harm our Freedom Alliance's people anymore. Bai Ling looked at Lang Xinyue. After hearing the words of these old men, How could she not know that Lang Xinyue was actually making up stories about her behind her back? So this is how Lang Xinyue and Ole explained it to you. At the end of the day, Bai Ling still had a lot of feelings for the Freedom Alliance. She didn't want these people to be used by Lang Xinyue. Chapter 2014. Thus, she ignored the murderous gazes and continued, "But do you really think that Master's seal can be found so easily? Apart from Master, who else knows where his seal is?" Everyone was stunned. Previously, they had been blinded by anger and hadn't considered this issue at all. Even though a few of them felt that something was wrong, most of them suppressed it. Yuanyueqing, don't twist words. What evidence do you have to prove that Master gave you the seal? Lang Xinyue's aura suddenly rose. Even the air around her became extremely stifling. First, I didn't say that I had the seal. Why are you so sure that it is in my hands? Bai Ling looked at Lang Xinyue coldly and asked expressionlessly.
Of course it was you who stole it back then.
Now that the Alliance leader is dead, and I have broken through to the Divine Monarch realm, I should be the Alliance leader of the Freedom Alliance. Why don't you hand over the things you stole? They belong to me. Lang Xinyue gritted her teeth in hatred. They were both disciples of Master. Why did Master give the seal to a woman like Yuanyueqing? What right did Yuanyueqing have to be treated differently by Master? Bai Ling couldn't be bothered with Lang Xinyue. She turned to look at the other elders. Don't you know what I have done in the Freedom Alliance for the past decade? How Master treats me and how I treat Master. Can't you see it too? Now just because of a few words from Lang Xinyue, you have decided that I am guilty. How can I not be disappointed in the Freedom Alliance? The elders were speechless for a moment, and they all remained silent. Bai Ling smiled coldly. Moreover, the people of the four nations are also at the gates. Do you really think that a fake divine lord like Lang Xinyue can defend against the four nations? No, you are wrong. She will only drag the Freedom Alliance into the deep sea hell. I still have some feelings for the Freedom Alliance. I thought that if you were willing to help me take down Lang Xinyue, I would let the Freedom Alliance go. Unfortunately, I came too late. You actually passed on your abilities to her as the old Alliance leader's most beloved disciple. How could Bai Ling not know about the forbidden skills that the old Alliance leader possessed? Now, when he saw the heavenly lightning that was so weak that it seemed to have no power at all, he knew that Lang Xinyue was a fake. Yes. Bai Ling saw that the elders did not speak and continued, Master's seal is indeed in my hands. However, this was indeed something that Master secretly gave me before he died. If you don't believe me, I can show it to you right now. Lang Xinyue furrowed her brows, but she wasn't too worried. Yuanyueqing wouldn't be able to cause any more trouble anyway. Bai Ling didn't pay any attention to Lang Xinyue. She took out a seal from her bosom and infused her spiritual energy into it. At the same time, a message was transmitted from the seal. I, Xin Luo, as the leader of the Freedom Alliance, pass on the position of leader to my disciple, Yuanyueqing. From now on, the Freedom Alliance will listen to her commands.
Protect him.
As soon as he finished speaking, the eyes of some elderly people in the crowd were already brimming with tears. Tears could not help but flow down their aged faces. It's the old Alliance Master's voice. It's the old Alliance Master. Chapter 2015. Lang Xinyue's face turned green on the spot. She never thought that there would be something else hidden in the seal. It was her master's will? In reality, Bai Ling had discovered this by chance some time ago. Otherwise, she would have used this seal to return to the Freedom Alliance long ago. Unfortunately, she had discovered it too late. That was why Lang Xinyue and Ole had been acting like tyrants in the Freedom Alliance for so many days. Elders, could it be that you really believe Bai Ling's words? Perhaps this is just a fake that she made. I've never heard of Ole being stored in a seal. Lang Xinyue gritted her teeth as she spoke. Her gaze towards Bai Ling was filled with murderous intent. A few people in the group heard Lang Xinyue's words, and their elderly faces immediately changed. In the end, they said in a conflicted tone, I remember that when the old Alliance leader made this seal, He told us that a will was stored in the seal. That's why I believe that this will is real. Previously, because the seal was lost, we couldn't obtain this will. However, they never thought that the tables would turn so quickly. Lang Xinyue's eyes darkened, and a cold light burst forth from them. Her eyes were cold and stern as she said, "Everyone, this will alone doesn't prove anything. Perhaps Master was forced by her? Could it be that you'd rather believe this woman than the Alliance leader or me?" She raised her hand and pointed at Bai Ling. Lang Xinyue didn't just want Bai Ling's death. She wanted to ruin her reputation even more. Only then would she be able to wash away her shame. At that moment, all the elders froze. Their faces were filled with astonishment and anger as they stared at Lang Xinyue in unison. Lang Xinyue did not understand what she had said wrong for these old men to look at her in such a manner. "Miss Lang, did you say that the old Alliance leader was forced? Then let me ask you, did you know the old Alliance leader? Was he someone who could be easily coerced? You also said that you and the Alliance leader had seen Yun Yueqing searching for the old Alliance leader seal. Since she was able to coerce the old Alliance leader into leaving a will in the seal, why would she need to rummage through the place? Furthermore, if she knew about the existence of this will, she wouldn't have stayed outside for so many years. Perhaps she would have returned to the Alliance a long time ago. Therefore, I conclude that Yun Yueqing must have found out about this will not too long ago." All the elders' expressions were filled with grief and indignation. At this moment, how could they not understand that everyone had been deceived by this woman, Lang Xinyue? Lang Xinyue's expression changed a few times, but she quickly regained her composure. A cold smile hung on her lips as she looked at the elders mockingly. "That's right, I was the one who made this up. So what? Don't you think it's too late?" Chapter 2016. The reason I want your power is to avenge him. Lang Xinyue's eyes flashed with murderous intent as she slowly walked toward Bai Ling. "Yun Yueqing, what's wrong with the Alliance Master? Why did you hurt him so much? In my opinion, you've climbed up the Alliance Master's social ladder, but you're so rude." With every step she took, an oppressive aura arose. The woman lifted her chin slightly, showing off her arrogance and indifference. However, Bai Ling's expression did not change under such a strong oppressive aura. Her snow-white dress fluttered in the breeze. Lang Xinyue was very jealous in her heart. From the moment Whitey arrived at the Freedom Alliance, her original position in the Freedom Alliance was in danger. The young geniuses that originally surrounded her now surrounded Whitey. It was also that day that she secretly swore that one day she would surpass that woman. Now, she finally achieved her goal. Thinking about how she could trample Bai Ling under her feet, the corners of her lips curled up even more. Her slightly raised eyes were filled with disdain. "Stop." Seeing Lang Xinyue walk in front of Bai Ling, the elders who were still grieving finally moved. They angrily charged towards her. A ruthless glint flashed in Lang Xinyue's eyes. She regained her senses and punched out. The body of the old man closest to her was instantly blasted open with a bloody hole. The surrounding people were also affected and swept away. Previously, these old men were all ultimate god experts with high statuses. However, now they were just ordinary people. How could they withstand Lang Xinyue's attack? A single breath from Lang Xinyue would probably be enough to crush them into pieces. "Elder Shi." Bai Ling's eyes suddenly changed. Her white dress streaked across the sky and instantly appeared in front of the old man who fell to the ground. "Elder Shi, how are you?" When Elder Shi heard this, he raised his eyes with difficulty. Looking at the familiar face in front of him, he used all his strength to roar, "Quick, runs." After saying that, he gradually closed his eyes. His palm also slipped from Bai Ling's hand to the ground, losing all signs of life. Those old men, due to their ignorance, believed Bai Ling's words. However, now he lost his life because of her. No matter how wrong they were, at that moment, Bai Ling could not hate them. There was only grief and helplessness in her heart. Even though the other elders were also injured, they were much better off than Elder Shi. At least they didn't lose their lives, right? Lang Xinhua, to think that we trusted you so much. We even transferred our strength to you for the sake of avenging the Alliance Master. But now I know how stupid I was. Not only did I harm Yu Qing, but I also harmed the entire Freedom Alliance. A white-haired old man stood up with some difficulty. His expression was resolute. Today, I will make up for the mistakes we have made. Yu Qing, hurry up and leave the Freedom Alliance. Go as far as you can. It was our Freedom Alliance that harmed you. Now it's time for us to atone for our sins. Bai Ling slowly placed Elder Shi's body on the ground. She gradually stood up, her fine black hair fluttering in the wind, and her white robes were whiter than snow. She stared coldly at Lang Xinhua as killing intent radiated from her body. The reason I came here today is to seek revenge on Lang Xinhua. How can I leave so easily? Yu Qing. The white-haired old man's expression changed. He looked anxious too. Bai Ling did not seem to see it and continued to walk towards Lang Xinhua. Chapter 2017. Today, I will settle the score with you for killing Elder Shi as well. Lang Xinhua looked Bai Ling up and down, and the corners of her lips curled into a disdainful smile. It seems like your poison hasn't been completely removed. That day, you were just lying to me. Moreover, even if you've removed the poison, you're still no match for me. Indeed, I'm no match for you right now, but I dare to fight with my life. You dare to fight with someone like me who doesn't even care about your life? Bai Ling's expression was filled with killing intent. With a wave of her hand, a long sword appeared in her hand. Yun Luofeng was about to arrive. She had to get rid of Lang Xinhua before Yun Luofeng arrived. It was better than letting her daughter face such danger. Even if she lost her life because of it, she would not hesitate. Hee, Lang Xinhua chuckled. If you want to die, I can grant your wish. Outside the Alliance City, the armies of the three countries were already at the city gates. Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng walked at the very front. One of them was dressed in clothes as white as snow, while the other was dressed in black like an eagle. When they stood together, they were a perfect match. Kill them. As Yun Luofeng's words fell, the armies of the three countries broke through the city gates and charged into the city. The people of the Freedom Alliance did not know what had happened on Lang Xinhua and Yun Yueqing's side, so they naturally obeyed Lang Xinhua's orders and attacked the group of uninvited guests. Outside the city gates, blood flowed like a river, and corpses were strewn everywhere. Yun Luofeng stood among the mountain of corpses, as if he stood at the peak of the continent. His aura was powerful, and his expression did not change. No matter how strong the Alliance City's army was, they could not withstand the attacks of the three countries. They were instantly defeated, and in a short while, they were utterly defeated by the armies of the three countries and quickly dispersed. Ignore them. Let's continue. Yun Luofeng frowned. Perhaps because he thought of Bai Ling charging into the city, his footsteps involuntarily quickened. Alliance Palace. In the depths of the residence, Lang Xinhua's palm landed on Bai Ling's chest, causing her to retreat a few steps. She felt a fishy taste in her throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Bai Ling wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and her figure flashed as she once again charged toward Lang Xinhua. This battle was destined to have no suspense. Bai Ling's poison was not completely clear, and with the disparity in their levels, she was not Lang Xinhua's match. Hence, under Lang Xinhua's attack, her body suffered serious damage. But soon, the group of old men below discovered a special characteristic. That was, Bai Ling did not deliberately avoid Lang Xinhua's attack. Instead, she focused all of her power on attacking. But this was a completely reckless fighting style. He would rather lose 1,000 men than injure the enemy 800. For a moment, all the elders blamed themselves endlessly. If they hadn't trusted Lang Xinhua, how could such a thing have happened? If Bai Ling died, they would be too ashamed to face the old Alliance Master in the afterlife. Yun Yueqing, you're not my match. Lang Xinyue flipped his palm, and a sharp sword pierced through the sky. A sharp light radiated out from the void, bringing with it a cold temperature. If this sword landed, even if Bai Ling did not die, she would be severely injured. However, she still did not intend to avoid this attack. At the same time, her long sword floated into the sky and ruthlessly slashed at Lang Xinyue. If Lang Xinyue planned to continue attacking, she would also be injured. Even though she had already broken through to the Divine Lord level, she had not stabilized her cultivation. If this sword landed, she would still be injured. Chapter 2018. If other experts arrived at that time, she would be forced into a passive state. So, Lang Xinyue quickly withdrew her attack and turned to face the long sword in the sky.
Boom.
A loud sound came from the void and light waves spread across the sky, causing the air to tremble. Bai Ling's body was affected by this force, and she quickly retreated. Yun Yueqing, you're crazy. Lang Xinyue was furious. She glared fiercely at Bai Ling. Bai Ling laughed coldly. I've said it before. I don't care about my life. That's why I can disregard my own life and fight you to the death. But you treasure your life so much. No, I should say that you're even afraid of getting injured.
How are you going to fight me then?
Lang Xinyue's eyes darkened. She wasn't afraid of getting injured. She was afraid of the cold-blooded man who had killed the Alliance Master. If she was at her peak, she might be able to fight him. If she was injured, she might not be able to defeat him. That was why she didn't dare to let herself get injured. Only then would she have the confidence to defeat that man when he arrived. Lang Xinyue, you've always been a coward. You can only bully the weak, but you're afraid of unreasonable people. Bai Ling's words undoubtedly struck Lang Xinyue's heart. She flew into a rage out of humiliation. Yun Yueqing, if you keep spouting nonsense, I'll tear your mouth apart.
What?
You're worried and you won't allow me to say it? Bai Ling had already walked up to Lang Xinyue. When I first came to the Alliance, I was much weaker than you. However, I was able to surpass you in such a short period of time. This proves that you'll never be able to match up to me in this lifetime. Lang Xinyue was so angry that her chest was about to explode. Flames of anger surged out of her, but she still retained a trace of rationality. She sneered and said, Yun Yueqing, don't even think about provoking me. I won't fall for your trick. She could tell that Bai Ling was trying to provoke her so that she would risk her life to fight her. If that happened, even if she killed this woman, how good would it be for her? Bai Ling's eyes turned cold. This woman had actually become smarter? She had indeed wanted to provoke her earlier, but unexpectedly, Lang Xinyue did not fall for it. I know that the man who killed the Alliance Master last time is also here. You want to anger me so that I will be injured while fighting you. At that time, that man will be able to easily kill me, right? Lang Xinyue believed herself to be very smart, and nothing could escape her eyes. Looks like that man is still very afraid of me. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hidden himself and let you come out to fight with me. Right now, all of you only dare to challenge me because you see that I have just broken through to Divine Lord and my cultivation is not stable enough. In a few more days, even if all of you join forces, you will definitely not be a match for me. She did not know where Lang Xinyue got her confidence from, to think that Yun Xiao was hiding because she was afraid of her. But from the bottom of her heart, she believed that if there was no one secretly following her, Bai Ling would not have come alone to provoke her. So, I'll let you off today. There's still a long way to go, and there'll come a day when we're done. After saying that, Lang Xinyue turned around and leapt into the void. With a flash, he quickly rushed towards a nearby location. Unfortunately, Lang Xinyue had only taken a few steps when she was blocked by two people. It was a handsome man and a beautiful woman. They were so beautiful that they looked like an immortal couple from a painting. However, Lang Xinyue could easily sense the pressure coming from these two people. Chapter 2019. Foam, or shower. Why are you two here? Bai Ling was shocked. She did not expect Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao to arrive so quickly. Mother, This time, I've come to avenge you. Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Lang Xinhua, where do you want to go now? Are you going to let go of the grievances between you and my mother? Lang Xinhua's eyes darkened, and he laughed mockingly. What? After hiding in the dark for so long, you dare to come out? You keep calling her Yun Yu's stomach cleanser, but I don't think you care much about your mother. Otherwise, you wouldn't have used her as bait and used her life to hurt me. Yun Luofeng frowned. He didn't understand what Lang Xinhua was talking about, but he couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on her. Yun Xiao, I want to take revenge for my mother myself. Just watch from the side. Yun Xiao glanced at Yun Luofeng and lightly nodded. All right. Seeing Yun Luofeng's confident expression, Lang Xinhua laughed out loud once again. Little girl, I admit that you're quite talented, but if you think you can defeat a divine lord like me, aren't you being too delusional? Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. If you were a true divine lord, perhaps I would need to expend some effort to deal with you. It's a pity that this Sir God of yours is merely a fake. Her voice rang out slowly in the quiet void, causing Lang Xinhua's expression to change drastically once again. Seeing Lang Xinhua's expression, Yun Luofeng crossed his arms over his chest and slightly raised his chin. With a faint smile, he said, to deal with a fake divine sovereign like you, there's naturally no need for my husband to do anything. I'm afraid you'll dirty her hands. In reality, Yun Luofeng only wanted to personally teach Lang Xinhua a lesson, which was why he didn't let Yun Xiao make a move. After all, Lang Xinhua had caused Bai Ling to suffer so much, so how could she possibly let her off? How arrogant! Lang Xinhua snorted coldly and leapt forward. A powerful force accompanied her attack as it pressed towards Yun Luofeng. At this moment, a strong gust of wind rose. Under this strong wind, Yun Luofeng's hair danced in the wind, and his white robe gave off an otherworldly feeling.
Boom.
Just as Lang Xinhua's sword landed on Yun Luofeng's body was suddenly enveloped by a tough dragon-scale armor. With a clang, Lang Xinhua's palm trembled. Her arm felt numb, and a terrifying light appeared in her eyes. This dragon-scale armor was a treasure. Yun Luofeng naturally noticed her gaze. His lips curled up slightly. You want my dragon-scale armor? Giving you such a treasure is a complete waste. In other words, only a Sir God like her was worthy of wearing the dragon-scale armor. It's not impossible if you want it. Use your own abilities to get it. Yun Luofeng glanced at her with an evil smile. After all, there were many people who fancied my dragon-scale armor in the beginning, but those people are all dead. As the last sentence fell, the murderous aura on Yun Luofeng's body became even more intense. Even the surrounding temperature became gloomy. It was so oppressive that it made it hard for people to breathe. That's because they're too stupid, and I am different from those people. Lang Xinhua said coldly, Today, I will defeat you and make you pay for your arrogance. However, just as Lang Xinhua charged towards Yun Luofeng, she suddenly staggered and fell headfirst in front of Yun Luofeng with a thud. Chapter 2020. Everyone was dumbfounded, their faces full of shock. No one knew what had happened. Wasn't this Lang Xinhua very aggressive just now? Why did he suddenly give Yun Luofeng such a big bow? Lang Xinhua was also stunned. She crawled up in shame, but after taking a few steps, her calf went numb, and she fell to the ground once more. The person you let down is my mother.
You don't need to bow to me.
If you want to apologize, you should look for her, Yun Luofeng said with a faint smile. Lang Xinhua was about to explode. Who said she bowed because she felt guilty? It was clearly because you're courting death. She gritted her teeth and angrily fell down again. But just like the previous 2 times, she couldn't touch Yun Luofeng and fell again. Her entire head hit the ground, and she was in so much pain that she saw stars. Who was it? Who ambushed me from behind? Lang Xinhua roared angrily. After roaring, she was completely stunned. She was already at the Divine Lord realm. Could it be that the person who ambushed her was stronger than her? Yun Luofeng turned his gaze to Yun Shao. The smile in his eyes made Yun Shao feel a little guilty. I didn't dirty my hands. Yun Shao really thought that Yun Luofeng didn't let him do anything because he was afraid of dirtying his hands. Seeing Yun Luofeng smile and not say a word, Yun Shao felt even more guilty. Also, I didn't do anything. Then what did you do just now? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked. At this moment, everyone turned to look at Yun Shao. Their eyes were filled with shock. The person who unknowingly ambushed Lang Xinyue was actually him? Facing Yun Luofeng's question, Yun Shao very sincerely replied, I used my feet. That's right, he used his feet. He just used his feet to kick a stone on the ground and hit Lang Xinyue's numbing acupoint. From start to finish, he didn't do anything at all. You ambushed me? When Lang Xinyue saw that the person who ambushed her was Yun Shao, she was so angry that she lost her mind. She didn't forget that the person who killed the alliance leader was also this man. Thus, she rushed towards Yun Luofeng in a daze, the sword in her hand flashing with a cold light. Yun Zhao's brows furrowed lightly as his aura surged out, causing the entire heaven and earth to become dark. Scram!
Boom!
With this shout, a powerful wave of light seemed to gather in front of him. This wave of light fiercely slammed into Lang Xinyue's chest, and her body was instantly sent flying. In the void, the man stood with his hands behind his back. His black clothes were cold, and his pitch-black eyes were filled with killing intent. If Yun Luofeng hadn't said that he would personally teach her a lesson to avenge his mother-in-law, then he would have already killed her. Lang Xinyue fell to the ground, blood gushing out endlessly. Her eyes were wide open, filled with disbelief. You are a divine lord?
No.
Impossible. I remember you were only an ultimate god when you were in Nemesis Forest half a month ago. How did he become a divine lord after half a month? Bai Ling also looked at Yun Shao curiously. I also want to know, how did you make a breakthrough in the past half a month? This was supposed to be a simple and ordinary sentence, but it made Yun Shao blush magically. How could he tell his mother-in-law that the reason he was able to become a divine lord was also because of the results of dual cultivation for half a month? Chapter 2021. Yes. In this half a month, Yun Shao, who was on the verge of breaking through, had also become a divine lord. Moreover, he was different from Lang Xinyue's fake divine lord. His divine lord was the real deal. His strength was not something Lang Xinyue could compare to. Mother, Yun Shao obtained a fortuitous encounter earlier, so he broke through. Seeing Yun Zhao's embarrassment, Yun Luofeng stepped forward to help him out. Bai Ling was still puzzled. Since he obtained a fortuitous encounter, then why was Yun Shao blushing? Cough, cough. Lang Xinyue lay on the ground and coughed. A bit of power leaked out of her mouth. Feeling this bit of power, Yun Luofeng's expression turned serious and he said, Yun Shao, expel the power he swallowed. Lang Xinyue, who was still thinking about how to escape, suddenly heard these words. She was so frightened that her expression changed greatly. She raised her head in shock, only to see that the black-clothed grim man was already right in front of her. With a boom, an incomparably powerful force heavily struck her chest. Lang Xinyue spat out another mouthful of blood. The power he swallowed was also continuously extracted out of his mouth. As this power leaked out, Lang Xinyue felt the spirit energy in her body gradually decrease. This feeling caused her to turn pale with fright, and her face was filled with terror. But Yun Shao never had tender feelings for the fairer sex. His attacks became even more ferocious, and Lang Xinyue could not endure it at all. The power in her mouth formed a ball and was continuously extracted. Roar. An earth-shattering dragon roar resounded through the world. It was unknown when the little bug had appeared in front of Yun Luofeng, but it quickly swam towards Lang Xinyue. It opened its mouth and swallowed the overflowing power from Lang Xinyue. The moment the power was swallowed, the little worm's body rapidly expanded. From a little worm, it became a huge dragon. Dark clouds filled the sky. Heavenly lightning crashed down and fiercely struck the little worm's body. The little worm's body trembled in pain. The Freedom Alliance's elders were all scared silly. This power was considered a foreign object. Forcefully increasing it would definitely affect it. This was also why when Lang Xinhua broke through, the sound of the heavenly lightning was so soft. That was because the heavenly lightning understood that Lang Xinhua was completely useless. But now, the heavenly lightning was too powerful, as if it wanted to ruthlessly strike this dragon to death. Azure wings! Yun Luofeng lightly shouted. Yun Yi's muscular body suddenly stood in front of the little worm. He opened his arms and welcomed the thunderbolt that came crashing down.
Boom.
Boom, boom, boom. Thunder and lightning fell fiercely, shaping Yun Yi's body even more perfectly. His silhouette also became clearer. His face, which could not be found in a crowd, was particularly dazzling, and his temperament was incomparably powerful. After a while, the lightning disappeared. Yun Yi descended and slowly walked towards Yun Luofeng. And so, Yun Luofeng heard Yun Yi speak for the first time in his life. Master, his pronunciation was not very accurate, and his voice was a little stiff. He sounded like a beginner, confused and ignorant. Surprise flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. Yun Yi, you can talk? Azure Wing was a puppet that only knew how to obey orders. It could not think or speak. But now, Azure Wing could actually speak without a soul. Chapter 2022. Suddenly, Yun Luofeng thought of the records in Zhu Qian book. A real puppet was no different from a human being. No one would recognize its identity if it was placed in a crowd. However, even Zhu Qian could not perfect this method. Now, he happened to discover it? Lightning. Yun Luofeng's expression was a little enlightened. It was the heavenly thunder that completed the azure wings and gave him human emotions. Yun Yi, you've worked hard. Go and rest first. Yun Luofeng did not see the shocked expressions of the others as he calmly instructed.
All right.
Yun Yi's voice was very hoarse. As he had just gained consciousness, his expression was a little confused. However, the others sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw the azure wings. Divine Lord! It was actually another Divine Lord. Moreover, this Divine Lord called Yun Luofeng Master. Oh, that's right. The giant dragon that swallowed Lang Xinhua's power had also broken through to Divine Lord. Who else in the Fengyun continent could be Yun Luofeng's opponent? Yi Yan, the daughter of the Purple Moon Kingdom's General Yilin, was already trembling in fear after seeing the strength of Yun Luofeng's side. Initially, she had wanted to spy on Yun Shao, but now, she did not even dare to have that thought. Who asked this woman to be so terrifying? A dragon that was a divine lord and a puppet that was also a divine lord. Wasn't she courting death by stealing her man? Fortunately, her father kept stopping her. Otherwise, she would have died without a corpse. After the power was released, Lang Xinhua's strength returned to ultimate god level. She coughed up another mouthful of blood and glared at Bai Ling with resentment. She wanted to say something to Yun Luofeng, but she no longer had the strength to speak. So she finally closed her eyes slowly and lost all signs of life. After Lang Xinhua's death, the people from the three kingdoms surrounded the entire Freedom Alliance. The group of elders' hearts tightened as their voices trembled. Misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly. If it was a misunderstanding, would you have passed your powers to Lang Xinhua? The elders' expressions changed. They knew that they were in the wrong. Facing Yun Luofeng's questioning, they couldn't say a word. Bai Ling sighed. Forget it. Seeing that they wanted to save me at the very last moment, I'll spare them. Also, send people to properly bury Elder Shi. No matter how many mistakes they made before, they were all deceived by Lang Xinhua. Yu Qing. The group of elders sighed in relief. Now that Lang Xinhua is dead, are you willing to inherit the Freedom Alliance and become its leader? Bai Ling glanced at the group of elders and slowly said, the Freedom Alliance no longer needs a leader. Yu Qing. Everyone's expression changed. Bai Ling was the Freedom Alliance's only hope. How could they give it up so easily? Yu Qing, you're the only one left in our Freedom Alliance. Do you want us old bones to continue taking charge? Plus, we've already lost our powers. The Freedom Alliance might not be willing to listen to us. Bai Ling shook her head. Master established the Freedom Alliance so that the strong in the world wouldn't be oppressed by the Four Kingdoms. Now that the Four Kingdoms belong to my daughter, we must change the rules and regulations. Therefore, there's no need for the Freedom Alliance to exist anymore. Chapter 2023. But, no buts. Bai Ling turned to look at Yun Luofeng. Feng, I will dissolve the Freedom Alliance. This mainland doesn't need the Freedom Alliance anymore. She wasn't willing to become the leader of the Freedom Alliance. Right now, she just wanted to be by her daughter's side. That was enough. All right, I will order the four nations to not force any powerful cultivators to join the nations. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment. But I have something more important to do right now. Then, she turned to look at the people of the Freedom Alliance. Where is the Golden Sun Country's princess? Golden Sun Country's princess? The group was confused. We've never seen her. Never seen her? Yun Luofeng frowned. Lang Xinhua took her away, so he would definitely place her in the Freedom Alliance. Why haven't you seen her? Or are you still not willing to tell the truth? Her voice was full of menace. Yun Xiao also glanced over coldly, his murderous intent obvious.
Wait.
One of them seemed to have recalled something and said, Lang Xinhua did bring a woman back, but he didn't say who she was. Is she the Golden Sun princess you mentioned? Yun Luofeng's eyes narrowed. Where is she? She? The person was a bit guilty. Golden Sun Princess said she has a pure Yin body and can help men increase their cultivation. So, she was thrown into the herb cave. It's been so many days. She must have been nurtured. I'm afraid the geniuses of the Freedom Alliance. He didn't finish his sentence, but his meaning was clear. Yun Luofeng released his aura and said coldly, lead the way.
Yes.
The person broke out in a cold sweat. He was praying that Golden Sun Princess was still unharmed. Otherwise, the entire Freedom Alliance would be finished. Even Yu Qing wouldn't protect them. Inside the medicine cave, the woman's body was tightly curled up into a ball. She could feel the densely packed insects drilling into her body, causing her to tremble in pain. However, she still bit her lips and didn't make a sound. At this moment, the door to the herb cave was opened. A young man walked in and scooped up Lian Yuesheng, who was almost unable to move. It's about time. It's time for us brothers to enjoy ourselves.
Haha.
The young man laughed impudently. Long before this, Lang Xinhua had made them wait here for Lian Yuesheng. Therefore, they did not know what had happened earlier. During this period of time, Lian Yuesheng had been suffering both mental and physical torture. What was placed in the medicine cave was not medicinal herbs, but some poisonous insects that had been fed with medicine since she was young. These poisonous insects would drill into her body from time to time, leaving behind their venom to perfect her pure Yin body. But Lian Yuesheng looked down, and a cold light flashed to her eyes. She clenched her fists tightly, and her heart was filled with coldness. The young man dragged Lian Yuesheng out of the herb cavern. Soon, he dragged her to a back mountain. There were countless young men waiting for her in the courtyard. Some of them even smiled at her lewdly. We are really lucky this time. Not only is this woman beautiful, she also has a pure Yin body. With her help, my strength will break through even faster. Chapter 2024. But why are we doing this at the back of the mountain? TSK, you have no idea. Our Alliance City's back of the mountain is filled with spiritual herbs. With the help of these spiritual herbs, we can cultivate faster. Anyway, this woman can't escape, so we don't have to worry. That's true. I don't think she has the guts to jump off the cliff. After all, there's a rather powerful spiritual beast suppressed at the bottom of the cliff. Jumping down is equivalent to suicide. As the saying goes, a bad life is better than a good death. No matter what, it's better than death. The youths were chatting with one another and laughing out loud. None of them noticed Lian Yueshing's darkening expression. Lian Yueshing suddenly smiled. Her smile was different from the previous cold one. It was so beautiful that it moved people's hearts. Do you guys want to dual cultivate with me that much? Her voice was soft and tender, making one's bones go numb. Why don't you go first? Suddenly, Lian Yueshing pointed at a skinny man with a glint in her eyes. The man did not expect the beauty to take a liking to him at first glance. He was delighted and took off his clothes. Laughing, he pounced at Lian Yueshing. The others were not in a hurry. After all, they had their share of the beauty. That was enough. The skinny man was completely unguarded against a beauty like Lian Yueshing. Just as he pounced in front of her, he saw a dagger suddenly appear in the beauty's hand and hold it against his neck. Lian Yueshing's smile disappeared completely. Her expression turned cold as she shouted sternly, "Don't move. Otherwise, I'll kill him." Everyone was stunned at first, then they sneered. "Do you think we'll let you go by capturing him? What a joke. Miss Lang will never let you leave. Do you not even have the ability to walk out of this back of the mountain?" Lian Yueshing narrowed her eyes slightly. "I'm not trying to escape. I just don't want you guys to get close to me." As she said that, Lang Xinyue's body retreated toward the cliff. The group of people laughed out loud. "Young lady, it's better if you don't resist. You can't threaten us. If we kill him, we'll have one less competitor. Why should we save?" Just as the young man finished his sentence, he suddenly realized Lian Yueshing's intention. He was so scared that his soul almost left his body. "Quick, stop her. This woman wants to jump off the cliff." However, it was too late. Lian Yueshing, who was carrying the thin man, leaned back and fell towards the cliff. At the same time, she let go of her hand, allowing the terrified man to fall off the cliff first. She also saw him fall into a bloody mouth. That's fine too. It was better to be a broken piece of jade than an intact tile. Even if she was swallowed by that ferocious beast, it was better than being humiliated by those people. Lian Yueshing closed her eyes, and her lips curled into a faint smile. At this moment, she felt an arm wrap around her waist, and her falling body also stopped at this moment. Her body trembled, and she opened her eyes slightly. What came into view was the side of a beautiful face. The woman's facial features were exquisite, and there was a domineering aura between her brows. She was dressed in a snow-white dress, and she looked like a celestial who had descended to the mortal world. That hand had even dragged her out of the abyss of evil. Even Yueshing's heart couldn't help but tremble at this moment. Her eyes that were originally filled with despair were now tinged with a hint of hope. Why was she here? Did he come to save her?
Why?
They had never met before. Chapter 2025. While Lian Yueshing was having mixed feelings, Yun Luofeng's body had already landed firmly on the ground. Her eyes swept across the crowd of geniuses with a piercingly cold gaze, sending chills down everyone's spines. So the Freedom Alliance isn't that great after all. She let go of the woman in her arms and walked towards the prodigies with light steps.
Who are you?
How dare you barge into our Freedom Alliance? The prodigies were shocked, but they still pulled out their weapons and pointed at Yun Luofeng. I'm here to kill scum like you. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile, and he waved his hand, causing a gust of wind to spring up. Before the group of people could even react, they felt their bodies being struck and were sent flying backward. They landed right in front of the elder, who brought Yun Luofeng. "Elder, you're finally here." The prodigy was overjoyed, but before he could speak, he was interrupted by the elder's cold voice. "We were tricked by Lang Xinyue. The previous leader has already passed his seal to Yu Qing and left behind a will. Even what he said before was fabricated by the previous leader. This lady is Yu Qing's daughter. The other person who is almost humiliated by you guys is the princess of Jinyang country. The expressions of the geniuses changed drastically, and they even forgot to beg for mercy for a moment. Good luck to all of you. The elder sighed helplessly. He glanced at the dumbfounded prodigies one last time before heading down the mountain. Lian Yuesheng stared at the woman in white in front of her. She had mixed feelings. The person she saw as her family pushed her out personally. Instead, it was a stranger she had never met before, extended a helping hand to her. How could she not be disappointed? Lady. The group of geniuses finally understood from the elder's words. They no longer had the arrogance they had before and knelt on the ground with a thud. Please let us go. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and mistakenly believed Lang Xinyue's slanderous words. Please forgive us this time. We won't dare to do it again. He kowtowed so hard that a bruise appeared on his forehead, but he didn't seem to feel it. Not long after, blood flowed from his forehead. However, he could only feel the fear in his heart. He could not feel the pain on his forehead at all. You all listened to Lang Xinyue's slander, which is why you committed such a mistake. Is that right? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes, and a sinister light flashed through them. The man hurriedly nodded. Yes, that's right. Yun Luofeng smiled. Unfortunately, in my opinion, you're just being controlled by your own desires. Even without Lang Xinyue, you would still have captured Jin Yang the moment you discovered his existence, just to satisfy your desires. As Yun Luofeng walked closer, all of them felt a wave of pressure. They raised their heads in fear, and what entered their eyes was the woman's beautiful face. So, Yun Luofeng stopped and said coldly, "Are you going to jump down yourself, or should I throw them down?" She pointed to the cliff, her voice cold.
Run.
The prodigies gasped and looked at each other. They then turned around and fled down the mountain. However, before they could take more than a few steps, a large hand grabbed them by the lapels of their clothes and threw them down the cliff. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.